Boys are going to bring the heat today.
As the leader of the Booner pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the f*** up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome to Crunch Time Sports with Jeff, Booner, Lucas. It is Tuesday, January 21st. We are back discussing what's been going on with the Detroit Lions, which it seems like a lot has. Every day, something new is happening. Another coach is potentially leaving. The loss still stings. Lots to get to. We'll kind of talk about the future of the Lions. AG, what's going on with him? Ben Johnson trying to poach
everyone.
Terrell Williams potentially leaving. My take, I'll get to that at 8:30. What I think the Lions should do with their coordinators and why I have a big no-no. Okay, I have a big no-no for Dan Campbell at 8:30. What I believe. I already tweeted it out. But, boys, how we feeling on a Tuesday? A couple days removed. It still stings. It still stings, huh?
Feels like, and I don't know, I don't want to be over-dramatic. Typically, I'm not an over-dramatic guy. I would say I'm not.
No, not at all.
Feels like the sky might be falling in a sense when it comes to this stuff. I mean, I'm not saying it is falling because at the same time, it's like I trust Dan Campbell to do his thing. Running the socials and getting alerts, and I'll say this, being insider Boone, some of the reports and the rumors that are going around, it's like every 30 seconds there's a new report and a new rumor. And it is like, this is unbelievable. There is a rumor, and I just saw just a fan put it in there. He said, does their Booner path go through Chicago? There's a rumor that Ben Johnson might be trying to poach Booner in the Booner path to Chicago. Like, everyone's getting poached, and everyone's getting taken away from this city right now. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I get it. It's like, hey, this is what it's like being good. And I was like, I don't know about you boys. I was like trying to think of other teams that, like the Eagles, like when those OCs in DC left, like how many coaches did they take from their staff?
I mean,
like,
remember, not coaches. Yeah, coach. I would say
see how many other coaches, like players and like all that. Like Dan Quinn took all the players from the Dallas defense. Like, but like when you're talking about like positional coaches and this and that, it's like, man, like I don't like it. I don't like this. I don't like this one bit. I mean, this is part of winning football, I guess. So. Congrats to Klotz, national champion.
Yeah, I would say I feel bipolar because I'm off an emotional high with the Ohio State national championship, but then it's like when it rains and pours when it comes to Detroit Lions, and there's not a doubt that I care more about the Detroit Lions when it comes to football. And it's just like there's not one positive report coming out. I guess one with Ronnie Bell. Ronnie Bell's been signed. Michigan man, bring him home, I guess. But you talk about even like Kelvin Shepard, Terrell Williams. We knew about Hank Fraley, but when you think about like, could you blame those guys for leaving? I mean, we'll get into it more, but it's just it sucks. It sucks to be a Detroit Lions fan right now because you'd be expecting to prepare for an NFC Championship game, and instead it seems like what could be right now seemed as a collapse. Obviously, the Lions will be there, but just where you expected the season to be, it seemed like the roof just caved in at the worst time, and it's just pouring rain.
Yeah, I mean, when it rains, it pours, man. You know,
it really does, man.
It's like you lose as a 1 seed to a rookie quarterback, and then the next day or 2 days later, Ben Johnson's in Chicago, and then now you're hearing what AG's doing. Oh, yeah, by the way, Terrell Williams interviewing for the Patriots job. They love him. They want him there to be the DC. Oh, yeah, Kelvin Shepard might leave with AG, and oh, yeah, Hank Fraley might leave with Ben Johnson. It's like Dan Campbell. It's like the Will Smith Fresh Prince meme where he's just in a room looking around. Just like,
I guess it's a testament to Dan Campbell. Like the man's hired an unbelievable
Oh, it's
staff.
I
know we didn't win a Super Bowl and it was like a failure of a season.
But that's
But
what
when
stings is they didn't win with that staff.
Literally, I was driving home today, and sometimes I'm a weird guy. Sometimes I'm thinking like if people are asking me questions, like interviews and stuff, how would I think about them? That's how I think of some of the stuff I say. And I was like thinking like, how disappointed are Lions fans? Like, how bad does it really hurt? And as you get farther and farther away from the game on Saturday night, you start to see like you had an all-star coaching staff, and they're all leaving. And it was like, this was your best. I know that the injuries and all that, this was literally like your best chance as of now. And like Dan's going to have to reload with coaches and like not just OC and DC, with defensive line coach, with offensive line coach, like offensive line, like Hank. I know we're getting into it. I don't even want to get too far into it because I know we have segments on it. But like these are big time people. Like these are dudes that have like very, very much developed a lot of these players on this team and have had and two, Steve Wilds, Booner's changing tune. I'm not changing tune. And this is where I think Lions fans.
He's backpedaling.
No, not backpedaling. This is where Lions fans, and this is where it's like, hey, Steve, you can choose if you listen to us or other people around the city, whoever you do. Like, listen, I'm a Lions fan, grew up a Lions fan. People call me a slappy all the time, right? But I'm realistic. I'm not going to sit up here and put lies into Lions fans' brains that, hey, everything's perfectly fine. This is the best team of all time. Like, no, there are going to be problems. Like, you're gonna lose pieces. You're gonna have to find a way to bring them back and bring new pieces in. That's it. Like, don't get brainwashed and don't let that cancer leak into your brain about like, hey, it's all rainbows and butterflies. Like, that's not realistic. If you're a real Lions fan, if you're a real football fan and you watch the game and you see that, hey, things have to be fixed. Like, hey, the Booner path, listen, there are potholes that need to be filled right now. There are detours. I said it earlier this year, and when the Lions were in a bad spot last year, there are detours in this thing, and you have to find a way to get your construction team out on the road and the highway, and you got to you got to get some things done. But don't be one of those people who are just unrealistic and are what's the word I'm looking for, boys? Who are just unwilling to understand the truth and see the truth and be like, hey, we're losing like 6 big time staff members potentially. Right? Like, you got to figure that out, and you have to make the right decision. And that's
I would say those we could classify as Kool-Aid addicts, Boone.
Well,
yes. And listen, I love I drink
They're
Kool-Aid.
addicted to the Kool-Aid. They're addicted to it. But
yeah,
I drink it, but don't be slappy.
You know when to put the cup down, Boone.
Yeah,
some people they just.
That's why when you hear the term window as a fan, people, part of that windows aren't always players, it's coaches. Like, you cannot deny they had a stacked staff top to bottom. They had to win with that staff. Like, that staff was built perfectly. Can he assemble another great staff? Great staff? Potentially. I believe in Dan. But could there be mistakes? He's human? Absolutely. So when people bring up like the window, they have great players still. The window's not closed, but the window with that staff is closed. Like, you're going to lose a lot of great coaches, and it is what it is, man. You know, it sucks. Yeah. You're going to lose Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, Terrell Williams, potentially Hank Fraley, Calvin Shepard. That's just how it is. You know, like, now, if you're going to convince me that the next OC hire will be better than what Ben Johnson has been, you may be drinking something that I might want to partake in with you, because that makes it's hard to believe that. It just is. I mean, Ben was the most sought after head coach candidate the last handful of years. You're telling me Tanner, which we'll get to later. I'm not even going to get into it. We don't know. There's an unknown. Okay. And I'm going to talk about that later. I want to get to that at 8:30.
And again, Steve, though, in the chat, he's like, Boone, or Jeff and Lucas get it. He's got to be trolling because, like, you guys are saying the same thing. We are on the exact same page. We're on the exact same page.
Yeah, we're on. And you're going to see what Dan Campbell's made of, too, truly as a head coach, because you look at the elite head coaches around the NFL. You look at, Sirianni is an elite, but throw him in there. You look at Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, both in the NFC, Sirianni. Both of these guys have lost offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators. DeMeco Ryans, Mike McDaniel with Shanahan, and then you look at Raheem Morris, and I know KOC wasn't an offensive coordinator, but he was a huge part in developing that passing game that they won a Super Bowl with. Cooper Kupp had a triple crown type of season, and they were able to get back into winning teams. And I mean, I know the 49ers look rough right now, but they were in a Super Bowl last year. So if Dan Campbell truly is the elite coach we all think he is, he's going to go out and get the right guys and put this team back in position. Will they look like a 15-2 team right away? Absolutely not. I think it's highly doubtful that they have 15-2 next year. And that's where the conversation we're having. It's like they're not going to pick right back up where they left off. Like there's definitely going to be some adjustments that are going to need to be worked out on the field in games, not just in an off season.
And
with that,
no, go on.
I just want to say with that too, it's like even the start of this year, I know you had different pieces and everything. Like you returned both OCs this last year, and you didn't start off as a 15-2 team. Like you struggled. You lost versus the Bucs the first 5 weeks of the season. You offensively, you couldn't figure it out. Defensively, you got it going, but like you still like it takes time for these things. I'll say this too with the people who are like, oh, the Booner path. Like, listen, there's going to be a Booner path next year. I have full confidence, and I don't know where you guys are at in this. I do have full confidence though that Dan Campbell's going to rehire and get the right guys. Like I really do believe that. I think Dan, he is like people can. And then the one thing I hate too, people are like, what about Anthony Lynn? Is he going to hire the next Anthony Lynn again? Like that was one of his first decisions as a head coach. He had no experience as a head coach. Like some of his first hires, you've seen him, some of those first hires, even position coaches, he let go of and moved on from because he realized, okay. And then guess what? He brought guys like Terrell Williams in, and he brought guys, the Kelvin Shepherd hiring. Like he's brought Scotty Montgomery, bringing him in from Indy. Like he's brought the right guys in over the last few years instead of hiring the wrong guys. So like I do have faith, like when it comes to the defensive line, say he leaves or Terrell leaves or say Hank Fraley leaves or Kelvin, whoever leaves, I do have a lot of faith that Dan Campbell finds the right person. And on top of that too, like who wouldn't want to come here? Like if you're a young coach or you're even a vet coach that's looking to kind of just be a positional guy, who would not want to come coach his Detroit Lions team? Who wouldn't?
Mm-hmm. Well,
like everyone, they're going to get the best of the best.
The Lions, the players, Ben Johnson coach, they're speaking. And David Montgomery put this on his story today, actually. So he's even kind of feeling the damn. Like David Montgomery was with the Bears. Now he's with the Lions, and Ben Johnson deciding to go to the Bears. And then there's David Montgomery. It's a great meme.
I mean, it is.
I mean, and I saw Bears fans talking about, is he returning? And there's Bears fans in this chat, which honestly, I do appreciate that they're tuning in. That's awesome. What I hope the Bears fans in here don't actually believe that Dave Montgomery is going to come back to Chicago.
He's not. He just resigned an extension.
Yeah, I saw some Bears fans commenting like, "Bring him back home, bring him back home." No, he's staying. That meme wasn't. That didn't mean that. It meant he's like, damn, in the division. Mm-hmm. That's what that means. So even he feels it.
His old team too, like.
Oh yeah, like imagine like even Amon-Ra. Like Amon-Ra had the podcast with Caleb Williams, and they were talking about it, and they were kind of like laughing about it. Now it's real. Like he's in Chicago. Yeah. It's like
I'm sure they had some back and forth with Ben too, like especially Demont. Don't go there. You don't want to be there.
It looks nice from the outside. You get in there, yeah.
That's the last place you want to be.
Today's been very interesting. All right. A lot of news has been flying out left and right. It's like you keep getting smacked in the face. And I have shout out to Al Karsten. He does work for Pride of Detroit. He did this like coaching breakdown of all the coaches, and it's so helpful. So shout out to him for that. Made it himself. And we can take a look at it. It's basically a breakdown of Dan's staff, right? Dan Campbell. You got Ben Johnson over here. And then assistants under him, Dave Phipp, Aaron Glenn, the assistants under them, and kind of who's interviewing. So yeah, it's really interesting.
It's like a science project.
Yeah, like he has Ben Johnson, so the offensive staff. Ben's gone. Look at that. Hank Fraley's taking an interview. No one else has. Antoine Randall, Tanner Engstrand, Scotty Montgomery. No one else has. And on the defense, Terrell Williams, rumored New England Patriots DC candidate, and then Deshae Townsend, he interviewed with the San Francisco 49ers. So that's that too. This is pretty dope what he did. And then AG interviewed for a second time with the Jets today and the New Orleans Saints, which I also saw Adam Schefter put out that he left the building today. And it was being reported that the Jets, the whole thing about today's meeting, I think why he just tweeted he left and why it's significant is today they were putting out information that they didn't want Aaron Glenn to leave Like the Jets' whole thing was he will not leave the building without a deal.
Yeah.
And then, and by the way, coach just said, where is that at, Jeff? L. Karsten, ALKARSTEN on X. He put it on his Twitter. If you have Twitter, coach, I'm trying to. You might not, but it's on
If
Twitter.
Not,
L.
Coach
Karsten.
Walk, I'll send it to you after the show.
Yeah, send it to coach because it's a good little breakdown. But he left the building, so I think what that means to me, Wizard hat.
Yeah.
Saints are next, and then the Saints will not let him leave. I know that.
Can I just be transparent with you?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I could be wrong. And this is why we do this show. Someone's got to be right and someone's got to be wrong sometimes. I think you're wrong. I think they have a deal done. I think that AG is going to be the next coach of the New York Jets. The rumors, literally, Adam Schefter said, hey, they left the building. A rumor within the hour before, a New York Jets beat reporter had put out there that the Jets were reaching out. While Aaron Glenn was in the building, they were reaching out to other candidates that they are going in a different direction while AG is in the building. So you would think if he's in the building and they're reaching out to guys, hey, that's a thing. I just think that the news has not broke yet. I think it seems like they're keeping it pretty tight knit there. Maybe they're trying to figure out a couple more things and that. So, but like the Saints today, I don't know if you guys know this, the Saints canceled all of their interviews for today. I think tomorrow as well because of the weather. So like he won't even be able to interview with the Saints for a couple more days, like later in the week, maybe like Thursday, Friday. So like if he's leaving and it's like, hey, let's wait. I don't think the Jets are like, hey, you got to take this job. Like it's only open right now. At least that's how I would think, boys. I think he's going to take the Jets job. I think in the next 24 hours, even maybe while we're live on the show, I think the news breaks that he's going to be a New York Jets head coach. That's just kind of how I've taken it throughout the day today.
I'm with you, Boone. He might hear the Saints go down to New Orleans after like the weather clears up and go hear the Saints out. But if you're Aaron Glenn, it makes so much more sense to go to the Jets because both are in bad situations. I understand that Woody Johnson, terrible owner, but the Saints are just so far behind the 8 ball, even with the cap space, the roster, they're going to have to clean house. If you go to New York, what is Aaron Glenn? A defensive guy, more specifically a secondary guy. And you look at Sauce Gardner in that secondary, the front seven that they have, you got pieces there. Even on the offense side of the ball, sure, Devontae Adams isn't going to stick around, but Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, they have an offensive line that's getting built together. They're just a quarterback away, and that sucks to say because that's always the situation with the Jets. But if you're Aaron Glenn, those are both your former teams. Obviously, he was a coach in New Orleans, not a player. But do the smart move and go to the Jets. If you're going to leave Detroit, go to the better situation, and that's in New York. It's as wild as that might be to say.
I know. It's the thing I think for AG, my opinion, Saints it's a tough situation. Okay. The Jets have talent, but still ownership wise, it is a tough situation. I know he played for the Jets, so he has that going for him. But like, something about I want to just see AG end up in New Orleans. I think that's just a perfect fit.
I've literally been saying it for 3 months now. And I would love for that to come true and for that to happen. But I do think it's like realistically, the Jets seem like that's the spot he's going to land. Like Woody Johnson, I offer the man, like if you really want to change your organization, offer the man the money he wants and just go from there. Because I think AG is going to be a great head coach. Great head coach.
Yeah. And there's other things transpiring. I mean, you have, and I put this out, I don't want to, we'll get into it. Again, it relates to 8:30, but Calvin Shepard potentially leaving with AG to become his DC. Hank Fraley, and this is the thing we can discuss, Hank Fraley. Ben Johnson's trying to take Hank Fraley and make him his OC in Chicago. Now, on paper, it makes a ton of sense. Chicago Bears need offensive line help. They want a great coach. Hank Fraley, offensive line savant, one of the best in the league at coaching offensive linemen. And he would leave the Lions to get a promotion essentially without actually taking on the role. Like he would get a promotion with the title. He would be OC, but he wouldn't call plays, and he would still get a pay raise and get to kind of be groomed as an OC. Like Ben could teach him things as he's in Chicago. A part of me, this is a complete bias opinion. I'm just letting you know. Okay. Complete bias. Part of me would love Hank Fraley just to be that decades offensive line coach in Detroit. That would be awesome. to get to coach Penei Sewell.
This
But
is
the reality is, fellas, he might be gone.
What a ridiculous statement. Like, yeah, one of the top 3 offensive line coach would love for him to be the positions coach forever. Dude, Jeff, like, we all want to move forward in our career. I mean, let the man, at this point, like, for me, all these guys, it's like, you would be, and I would tell them the same thing. It's the same thing with Ben and AG. Like, you're dumb if you don't take a job. Like, if you're offered an OC position, like, dude, he's second interview for the Seahawks, where he would be the play caller. That's something to be like for Hank. Like honestly, do you want me to be honest with you boys? Like, yeah, if he goes there, I bet you he interviews for this Detroit Lions OC job.
That's
and
what
Dan
I
gives
was about
him an
to
interview.
say.
Like, I don't think that's that crazy of a thought. Like, if he's getting a second interview in Seattle, and that's for literally the play caller, and then Ben wants to take him, like that, like he was rumored last year. I'd sent it to, I think I actually sent it to the doc. But I was talking to the doc about it, and I had sent to the doc that last year when Ben was about to take the Washington job, Hank Fraley was going to go be his OC there. And that was the big combo was, hey, you're about to lose Hank Fraley. So, like, he was about to leave no matter what. Like, the only way I think he stays is if Dan Campbell offers him the OC job. And that's just up in there. Listen, I know we're going to have the conversation with Tanner. I'll wait for that, actually, though, because I have some comments on the Tanner situation and all that. But, like, yeah, I mean, just let the man go. I mean, it's tough because Hank's one of the best in the league. And you would, like, the Eagles, they have their offensive line coach. He's been there forever. And it's like, yeah, you want that. And I think that's like going into this hiring cycle for Dan. It's like maybe like let's get some veteran coaches that might stick around for a little longer so you can build that camaraderie with some of these guys. And it's not always just constant turnover. So maybe that's something Dan needs to look at when he's not just like your DC or OC, but also positional coaches. But yeah, Hank's gone. I think Hank's gone. And the only way he stays if he's your offensive coordinator going into 2025. That's it.
Yeah. I don't have too much to say after what you said. I mean, I'm going to reiterate the same thing over and over again.
I want him to be Jeff Stoutland. That's his name. Stoutland. Yeah, they call it Stoutland U or Stout U University, whatever they call it in Philly when offensive linemen go there and they become really good. That's what I wanted for Fraley, But I'm selfish. I admittedly say that. I'm selfish. For Hank Fraley's career, go take an OC job, because if I'm being very upfront with you, I want nothing to do with Hank Fraley as our OC. So all due respect. So he can take the upgrade. I don't want Hank Fraley to be the first time offensive coordinator when he's never even had anything to do. I know he's had some things to do with the run game, but you're grooming another guy. Why go Hank? Like, I'm going to be honest. It's kind of how I feel with Scotty Montgomery. I'm sorry. I'm not a huge Scotty Montgomery to be OC guy. I'm just not. I think there's like a gradual promotion you see with like guys that are becoming OC. Tanner is kind of getting groomed to be that. Ben, same kind of philosophy there. You're alongside the offensive coordinator. You're helping kind of game plan. Like for Scotty to go from running backs coach to just play caller, and he's never done that in his career. He just came from college a couple years ago. Like, I'm good on that. And Hank Fraley, I'm okay. I'm
gonna be honest, and I don't think he'll take the job, but the O-line coach Thomas Rotondi just put in there AQ Shipley. Bring that man as the O-line coach. He knows what he's talking. He knows what he's doing. He's in media now, but that'd be a great signing if you brought him as a offensive line coach.
Yeah, AQ Shipley would be interesting. Okay, that's fine. Now, U of M dad
watch
says
his
so.
breakdowns.
Jeff doesn't believe in developing people. No, U of M dad, I do, and we develop. Hey, we're helping Caleb develop, for example. We push him to be great, and he wants to be great.
Not but Williams.
Zarnik, the other one. But when it comes to a high stakes position like an offensive coordinator, I don't know. You have to really trust that this person has been getting groomed to take it, especially with the stakes, which is a Super Bowl caliber team. This isn't like if this team was in a rebuild, fuck it. Yeah. Give Hank Fraley the OC job. Let's see how he does. But in a Super Bowl year, I'm okay. Because whoever it is, it's got to be damn good. And trust me, we'll get to Tanner in a couple of minutes here, but that's how I feel about it. It's a high pressure job. When Ben Johnson became OC, at least you had Aaron Glenn as a veteran, like, and Ben Johnson worked out, and he was a passing game coordinator the year prior.
Yeah.
Like Hank or Scotty have nothing to do. They have no responsibilities with the passing game, or you know what I'm saying? Like Hank Fraley, I think, has something to do a little bit with the run game. So I'll give him that. He's got, and I'm sure Scotty Montgomery.
I think Scotty does too. He's a running backs coach. So I'm sure
they both do. But there's something. It's very different to be a positional coach to offensive coordinator. You know, it's a big jump. And I know Tanner Ingstrand's been working alongside Ben to be groomed to do that. So that's how I feel with it. It's not about I don't believe in developing people. I don't. That's not the message I'm trying to get across. It's just
I think it was when you say, "Hey, I want Hank to be here for the next 10 years. Don't develop."
Not as
that one.
I don't want him touching.
No. You're saying as the offensive line coach. You're like, I want you to be the offensive line coach for the next 10 years. Don't ever get better. Don't progress in your career and stay right there. Selfishly, that'd be awesome. But as a human,
I said selfishly. I admit it.
It's
selfish.
Selfishly,
very selfish.
Man, I want everyone to stay. I don't want anyone to leave at that point.
It is selfish. I fully admit it. But that's how I feel right now.
It's tough.
And I'm again, everyone in here, appreciate you all tuning in. Hit the like button, by the way, because that always helps. And I tweeted something out today. Okay, and I want to get your guys' kind of thoughts on it. See where you're at. And go ahead.
Because I know where you're going to transition to. Can we just real quick? I just mentioned the Terrell one too, Williams.
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to, because we didn't, the Terrell Williams and the Calvin Shepherd. I just want to throw it out. Like, those are just as big losses, boys. Like, I know people like it was a 1-year thing. Dan has been, and I was thinking about this on my drive home. And if people don't know, Terrell Williams most likely is going to have an opportunity to be the new defensive coordinator in New England. And I think that's like New England staff with Mike Vrabel and what he's built over there. Like, that's going to be a great team, in my opinion. Like, in the future, I think they're going to be unbelievable. And then you add Terrell Williams to that defense. Dan's struggled. I'll say one position coach that he struggled getting has been defensive line. Like, he's gone through 2 or 3 over the last 2 or 3 years. And then he finally got Terrell Williams, probably one of the best in the NFL. And losing him after you only got 1 year with Josh Pascal, Levi O. Like, you guys remember, like, Josh has had a good year. Levi O had such a good training camp. And, like, throughout the season, I know you wanted more, but you saw big, like, spurts of what he can do. I think that's going to be one of the bigger hits. I think Hank and Terrell, like, those are 2 big hits on top of your coordinators. I just think that one was like maybe a little overlooked. But if he leaves, you're sitting there in a spot to where it's like you have to make a great hire there, because that was like one of your biggest weaknesses last season was your defensive line.
Yeah. And even behind him with Calvin Shepherd. Like, you even saw what they did with Calvin Shepherd with, like, when guys like Ezekiel Turner were in there, Ben Neiman, Trevor Nowoski, like, those guys had success. You look at the development of Jack Campbell, how Alex Anzalone's then continue developing. So you look at that front 7, both those the coaches for both those rooms are going to be gone. And you look at what was this Lions defense built on? Stopping the run. And the front 7 is all about stopping the run. So I have faith, like we said, that Dan to be able to go in there and replace those guys, but to put them right back to where they started. No, even when you get Aiden Hutchinson back, like, look at how good Aiden Hutchinson looked in that 5-6 game stretch he had Terrell Williams under. I know this was the year where he's going to come on the scene regardless, but he was a defensive player of the year candidate, and he would have won it without a doubt. He would have locked it up probably week 10 because Trey Hendrickson led the NFL in sacks, probably should have won it, but it's going to go to Myles Garrett most likely again, and he didn't have that good of numbers. Aiden Hutchinson was about to light up the record books as far as stats this year. So the defense is still going to be good personnel-wise, but scheme and how things are going to be ran is going to be different. That's going to take time to adjust. So they're going to have to figure it out, but they got the talent to do it.
Yeah, the Terrell Williams one does stink. And I will say, man, I think, and people are probably, and I see the comments already, like Steve Wild says, how did Williams develop Martin? Well, Martin, I think Martin was already. He was,
might to be fair, how far gone that might be, that situation.
Yeah, but
Roger, he's developed other guys too. Mekhi Wingo was really good.
That's the guy. Mekhi Wingo just tweeted out earlier that, you know, like a sad face, or he commented on it basically. Like, I don't think Terrell Williams, you really got to see anything because everyone went down. With that. I mean, yeah, like Aiden went down, Mekhi went down, Aleem went down, like Marcus Davenport went down, like you had nobody left, you know. So I don't it's hard to look at that and be like, well, who did he develop? It's like, you really didn't have anyone to develop.
I would say AQM, like that dude came off the couch and was instantly productive now. Like he had 6.5 sacks. What was it in Indy? And he got half of that pretty much in the back half of the season on a rotational role with Zadarius Smith on the other side. The first 4 games Zadarius Smith stepped in Detroit, he was putting up a sack a game pretty much. So he's getting the best out of his guys. But when you lose a Lee McNeil, like it's going to hurt. DJ Reader still had a career high in sacks this year with no Aiden Hutchinson, basically. So he did a very good job developing. You could see it, even if it wasn't a huge statistical jump. Like the guys that, like you saw, like Nick Adams in there, Mitchell Agude, and they weren't complete liabilities every play. So he taught those guys how to hold their own. They're not all going to turn into stars and household names, even within Detroit. But there wasn't like a game where you were just outside of Saturday night where the Lions were just getting the ball ran down their throat. And that's a huge part to Terrell Williams when you're looking at the coach or the personnel that he was dealing with.
Yeah, I think it was the old case of the trying to make, chicken soup out of chicken shit, all due respect. But with the injuries, that's kind of what he was working with. Like, it's hard to really, all I know is his career, which he's had a career of developing guys. That's what I know. It's hard to judge him off this year. Josh Pascal, like even him, it's like, I think Josh might just be mid, not good. I think that's just a reality. But it's unfortunate. The Patriots are probably going to want to bring him in. The Patriots are probably going to wait. What?
Not that I saw a tweet that really just pumped me up. Sorry, we can continue. Did you guys see the tweet that got sent in our group chat?
No. I'll go look. I'll take a gander.
Hey, you guys boys know who one of my favorites in the industry is.
Oh, he quote tweeted something, huh?
He didn't quote tweet mine, but he commented on maybe something
Dan
I had said.
Oh well,
so he taught.
Yeah.
There's conversations on. I think that.
Come on now.
There might be conversations. We'll talk about
explain,
that
because people won't even know what's going on. They don't even know what we're talking about. Right?
I want you to be able to. I guess we could just talk about this now, and it'll transition into your thing. I had tweeted out just thinking, hey, because one thing that we haven't really talked about, and I think all of Detroit Lions fan base, and I was actually texting with someone that we're all friends with that is very good sports mind, and I said, hey, like, no one's really talking about anyone else besides Tanner Engstrand in this role. Dan Campbell's going to interview other people. Like, he's going to want to go out there and say, like, hey, let me get my options right. I want to make sure we get the right guy. One person that I said, hey, make a bold prediction. I want someone I want to see people's bold predictions on who you think, like, just an outside name that's like, hey, that could be an opportunity. That could be an opportunity. And for me, I'm trying to look for personally, and this is offensive coordinator, just so you guys know. I saw Steve put Rex. Offensive coordinator, I'm looking for smart, young offensive minds who know the game of football and who are able to go out there and do what Ben Johnson did. And one of those names in the NFL circle, and you can hate him all you want because he ran out of the end zone or not, the one thing you have to agree on is he has one of the best offensive minds in the NFL in the football world right now. Like, he does. Like, he breaks down game film very well. He knows plays. He knows concepts. Like, he is very good at what he does. And the rumors over the last few weeks, and it's not really rumors, he's said it and he has hinted at it, is that coaches and coaching staffs have reached out to him wanting him to be the offensive coordinator. And like, I was reading an article today, the Buffalo Bills potentially were if Joe Brady leaves, that Dan O is an option there. So I was like, hey, what about Dan Orlovsky? He's hinted at it, I said. He was the quarterback for Dan Campbell when Dan Campbell was in Detroit. And he's got that offensive mind and that young mind. I know most people probably don't like it. A lot of the comments that I was getting were a little, hey, Booner, what drugs are you on over there? I had a couple of people tweet at me, say I'm unfollowing. Didn't unfollow, but hey, it's just a thought. Listen, that's why I said bold prediction. This is where people don't understand a little bit. It's like, I would like to hear people's outside thoughts. Don't just say no, and don't just say I'm crazy. Let me hear your guys' bold. I want bold predictions, because like, it might not be Tanner. And like, hey, if it's not Tanner, boys, like, legit, who else have you seen outside of Detroit to get this job? I would love to hear one of you guys tell me someone, because I haven't seen one name, not one.
Do you think that kind of goes into it though, Boone?
Yeah, I do think there's a world, but I do still think there's a world that Dan, like, he's looking inside. But as a good head coach, and you guys should want it too, like, you should go out and at least interview some people outside of your organization. Like, what if you miss out on a guy? Or what if there's a guy that can bring another side to your offense or side to your team, and you just don't interview anyone. So you don't know. Like, Dan's going to interview other people around the NFL. He's not going to sit back and just say, hey, Tanner, this is your job. Like, that's not how this league works. Like, you have to earn it. And I think different guys are going to go through this process. Like Josh McCown, I'm sure potentially could get interviewed for this job. Dan O. And by the way, Jeff, I don't know if you want to pull it up, but Dan O tweeted Honolulu Blues, quote tweeted and said, hey, Dan O, you want to go? And he responded.
Thank you for the thoughts. Thank you for the thoughts.
I don't think it's thank you for the thoughts. I think that's more so like, hey, things are happening. There might be conversations already.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Crazy.
Again, this isn't me being like, I want Dan O. No, this is me being like, hey, guys, like, we're in a bubble right now of Tanner Engstrand. Jeff, I know you love him, and I do too. Like, I would love Tanner to be the OC. There will be other head or offensive coordinators that apply and that get interviewed for this position. And why is no one ever like someone, hey, be a little bold and go out there and put some names out there. Again, Josh McCown probably gets interviewed for the job. Dan O, like, it's not going to just be Tanner Engstrand interviews for the job and gets it. Like, there's going to be other interviews, and they're going to start coming out over the next week. Let's have those conversations too, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but again, people have to understand. You tweeted bold. It was bold.
Bold.
Like,
I want to know some outside thoughts. Like, this isn't me being like, I want Dan O right now. Like, no, I want to hear some outside thoughts. Some people that are going to interview that you're like, whoa, that's interesting.
And it is bold. I would like Dan. It's funny too because people are going to bring up him running out of the back of the end zone. But if you look like good OCs, man, they typically aren't like great quarterbacks. Like Kevin O'Connell, like, their backup or like that's just kind of how it is. Now, would I like to see Dan get a quarterback coach job or something? Yeah, but maybe because of his status, or maybe he doesn't need to. Maybe he can just jump right to being an OC, like you were saying, Booner. So I don't think the Lions will hire him if I'm just answering the question. But man, I'd like to see Dan O at some point take an OC job. I think it'd be, and he obviously played here with Dan, so you never know. I mean, it's a bold take. Now, I'll tell you a take that's going to happen, and I tweeted this out, and it's all coming to fruition because I put it out on my Twitter, and I made sure to say in the tweet what I think is going to happen over the next couple of days. And one of those things is what's happening on the offensive side of the ball. Okay, you're seeing Hank Fraley being rumored to join Ben Johnson. One guy you haven't really heard anything about is Tanner Engstrand, which I think is good news because I think he's going to become the next Lions OC. I tweeted out today, and it seemed to be doing pretty well. People agreed with it, which I wasn't sure how people are going to react because I've seen a lot of people, Lions fans, talking about, well, they should promote from within for both sides of the ball. And even though there's a lot of people out there, including the chat, you guys have been talking about Robert Saleh, which is fair, and I love that. I love these veteran DC ideas. But I tweeted out today, there is no way in hell I would be happy if the Lions promoted two guys from within, one on offense, one on defense. If you had two rookie coordinators going into next year in a win-now window of we got to win this Super Bowl, and you got two rookie coordinators, it'd be like Dan Campbell babysitting on both sides of the ball. What I tweeted out today was, I think Tanner Engstrand is going to be the next OC because Dan, I think, is more comfortable with a new offensive coordinator because he's going to be more involved on the offense anyway. So he's okay with having Tanner because, he can help Tanner, even though he'll let Tanner call plays, but he's more involved on that side. That's kind of his background. The defensive side of the ball, I think Dan wants a veteran presence because it's someone that you don't have to worry about, right? Like a Robert Saleh, don't have to worry about him. Even though the wildest ones we've thrown out there, like Rex Ryan, like you don't have to worry about him. Even the guy we talked about yesterday, Dennis Allen, you don't have to worry about him. We've seen this before. Like the Eagles, and I know people want to agree, disagree, last year promoted two guys from within. It went horrible. They promoted their quarterback coach, Brian Johnson, and they promoted I believe it was a defensive assistant for the Eagles. I could be wrong, but it was a new defensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a failed season. They collapsed, And look what happened. They went out and got Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore, 2 proven coordinators. I think the Lions can get away with one, specifically on the offense, because Dan's offensive-minded. And what do you see today? Aaron Glenn's thinking about taking Calvin Shepard, which that's where I was going with it when I mentioned Tanner Engstrand to be the next OC. Is I think Calvin will leave with AG. Personally, I do. And I think they'll bring in a veteran at defensive coordinator. Now, here's the reality. Now that I got that out the way, and you guys can comment on that, I want to say this, all right? Is it a guarantee that Tanner Engstrand's going to be Ben Johnson? No. There's no guarantee. Actually, it's unknown. We have no clue how good Tanner Engstrand's going to be as a play caller. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, and I'm mind blown. Like I've lost a lot of faith in certain individuals on Twitter talking about, good riddance to Ben. This offense will be just fine. Dan Campbell, he's the mastermind behind the offense, not Ben Johnson. It's Dan Campbell. Which, again, I'm not trying to take anything away from Dan Campbell, but people act like this is going to be the most seamless transition ever losing Ben Johnson, and I promise you it's not going to be. You have had a top 5 offense over the last handful of years with Ben Johnson. You have. He's an elite coordinator. Don't know about a head coach, and we'll find out. If you want to be mad at Ben Johnson for taking the Bears job, go ahead. I will not fault you. I'm frustrated. Everyone's frustrated. But the minute people start trying to discredit this man as a coach is where you lose me. It is, to me, cope. It's coping. And Tanner Engstrand, the reality is, as much as I like him, and they've been grooming him to be the next OC, and I would assume he gets that job. That's kind of my prediction. He might not be Ben. He might not be Ben. And we have to be fully aware of that possibility. There is no guarantee that this offense, I'll tell you this guarantee, they'll be good because they have great personnel. They have a great offensive line and an elite offensive line. They have a great run game. They have weapons. They have Jared Goff. Like, they have the pieces. Like, it's going to be hard to, take that and just, fall apart. They're going to be good. But to be a top 5 unit breaking records, guys, they were top 5 all time in points per game. If I'm not correct, Booner, was it points per game? Whatever the stat was. No, offensively. Weren't they top 5?
Yeah. They were like number 1.
That's going to be hard to just get with Tanner Engstrand. So I just want to make that very clear. As much as I am confident in Tanner, guys, the reality is he may not be Ben Johnson as a coordinator. Yep. Total points. Thank you, Easy, for that. There's no guarantee with that. And that's what I want to make very clear, because I try to be as honest as I possibly can. And people might not like hearing that, but that's the reality of it. Okay. Now, this defense will be better because the injuries, they're going to be healthy, hopefully. So the injuries, as long as you bring in a guy that knows defense, a solid guy who's proven, you'll be fine there. But offensively, just be ready. It's not always, remember we talk about with the NFL, every year people think it's just gradually increasing, right? Win a playoff game, get to the NFC Championship game, make a Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl. It's not like that. It applies to this stuff too. You're going to lose coaches, and you're not going to bring in coaches that are just as good as the prior coaches. It happens. So I wanted to get that very clear. I don't think the Lions should hire 2 rookie coordinators. It's probably going to be on offense, and then defense, they get a proven guy. But man, at the same time, fellas, we got to be prepared for the possibility that Tanner, he may not be it. But I hope he is. I have faith, but we have no evidence to suggest he will be. None.
I 100% agree with you. I think there is a sense to where if you do go 2 young guys, you're putting yourself in a position to where you're supposed to be a Super Bowl favorite, essentially, most likely. You're supposed to go out there and chase. You're supposed to go win a Super Bowl next year. It's Super Bowl or bust, and you're giving yourself 2 rookie coordinators who have had no experience yet. Like, you could say working under these guys are experienced. But to me, I'm 100% with you. There is no pushback from me. Like, offensively, I'll let Tanner go in there. And I think the reason why you're more comfortable, at least in my thought process, the reason I'd be more comfortable saying, hey, let's get the rookie coordinator offensively is because of the talent and what you have and what you've already had offensively. Like you've seen, like your point, Jeff, like you've seen what this offense has done already. And you know, like Tanner's been there with Ben. You know the weapons that they have with Amon-Ra and J-Mo and Jameer and D-Mont and the offensive line. And like Tanner's already worked with Jared Goff. We were at training camp for, 8 days, boys. And like we saw how much Tanner was involved with Jared Goff and Ben Johnson. Like it was those three in a huddle talking consistently. And Tanner's calling plays into Jared. Like that was a thing this last offseason. So like I trust that side of it. Now I want to be like, yeah, like Terrell Williams would be a great DC here, or Kelvin Shepard. For me, when I look at this, Jeff, and this is where I'm on your side, is defensively, there's been this up and down thing defensively. And I know you've dealt with injuries, but this has been your kind of weakness, even though AG's done a great job with what he's been handed. But that's been your weakness over the last 4 years is your defense, right? Like that's a fact. And I don't care if it's because you didn't have the personnel or what it is, like whatever reason it is, that's been your weakness. For me, I'm more comfortable with Dan Campbell, the Detroit Lions, saying, hey, let's go get someone who's been there and has done that, who knows in the NFL what it takes to have a top 5 defense consistently. And if guys go down, we know he's going to be able to keep us afloat. To where a rookie defensive coordinator, hey, you get a bunch of injuries, oh my, like panic button a little bit. Like, hey, I've never been a DC before. Like AG could deal with it this year because he was in his 4th season as a defensive coordinator. 4th year. Like he's had that experience. To me, it's like you have to go get a vet DC to build this defense. And Jeff, you actually said it, I think, when you were on the Bleacher Report app earlier today, and I loved this point as well, is Dan Campbell, he wants to be able to be a little bit more hands-on, not defensively, though. He wants to be able to be in that offensive room, and he wants to be able to sit there and be able to work with the offense and do that. Like, yes, he's going to be hands-on defensively, and he's going to have things to say and make those decisions. But he can't give both he can't split his time half and half with both of those. And I think if you go get a Robert Saleh, a Rex Ryan, I see a lot, Klotz, your guy in there, Jim Schwartz. Like if you go get a Jim Schwartz, those guys have been there. They've done it. They've proven to be good in the league. And you know one thing too, boys, and the people in the chat I think will actually love this, that I love about going to get an experienced guy. You look around the league, you're not going to have to worry typically about an experienced guy leaving every single season for a head coaching position. Like Jim Schwartz isn't really getting head coaching offers anymore, but he's putting out a top 5 defense consistently. Steve Spagnuolo, he's interviewed, but he's made it clear, like, I really don't care for head coaching anymore. Like that's not like at the top of my list.
Done that.
Yeah, Vic Fangio, like he's been very good in Philly. They went and got a veteran DC. He is not sitting there worried about, hey, where's my next head coaching position? He's like, no, I'm in here in the Eagles. I'm good to go. Like you don't see him interviewing for jobs this year, and he's put out a great defense. So I think it takes away from that too. And it's like, hey, the next couple of years, you get a vet guy in here to build the defense, an identity with these young core. Like if you get a DC in here that's a vet and gets to build up with Kirby, Brian Branch, Terrion Arnold, Aiden Hutchinson, some of these young dudes, Jack Campbell, that identity gets built for a 3 or 4 year span defensively. And this defense is going to be very good. But if you get a young guy, guess what? He's probably, if he's that good and wins a Super Bowl, guess what? He's probably out in a year or two. Like that's just my thought process with the boys. I know it might be a little different, but Jeff, I'm on your side with it. Like, go get a veteran DC at this point.
Yeah, we're all gonna align on this. Simply, just it goes back to we don't need any more projects, especially on the defensive side of the ball. All that's been the weakness for the Detroit Lions in their good window, in the window where they can go win a Super Bowl year in, year out, whether it's because of injuries or without injuries, it's because the defensive side of the ball. And if you bring in an inexperienced DC, now you're going to have to ask him to go up against, if Kellen Moore stays in Philadelphia, you got Kevin O'Connell, you got Sean McVay, you got Kyle Shanahan, and you have to see those guys in the playoff. Nick Sirianni, even if Kellen Moore doesn't stay there, he's an offensive-minded guy. I think it'd be it would put the Lions in another predicament where they're going to have to be catching up, because if you go back and you just look at the Super Bowl champions by the year, it's just consistently experienced DCs. You got Spags, Raheem Morris, Todd Bowles, Spags. Then you got Bill Belichick when he was with the Patriots, Jim Schwartz when he was in the Eagles, Belichick. Like, it just goes on and on, where if you have an experienced defensive coordinator, you're going to have an upper hand. Even if it's a young offensive superstar like Ben Johnson, they're going to be the guys that could potentially match that. If you have a weakness on the defensive side of the ball, I think the worst thing to do is potentially put a project on the defensive side at the coaching position. So I think, it would be a bad move for the Lions. They could still be good, But again, that's something where you're going to have an inexperienced person in a huge spot in the postseason. If you're doing it on the offensive side of the ball, I'm less worried, like you said, Jeff, because Dan's there. You still got guys like Mark Brunell, Scotty Montgomery, Antoine Randall. All those guys have been there, not to mention the talent is the cream of the crop when it comes to the NFL on the offensive side of the ball. Defense, it's talented, but they've yet to put together like a winning product on the defensive side of the ball. Somebody has to go in there and teach them, especially because there's no AG, how to win on the defensive side of the ball in big moments, because lately they've been the liability.
And
like
I just want to say this because people, man, like, again, you have every right to be frustrated, upset, and we put out a graphic, have Ben Johnson as public enemy number one. You have every right to do that because he is the Bears head coach. But like the amount of flip-flopping I've seen from Ben, like these Lions fans, all of a sudden now Ben is like come on, Fancy Lion. Like I saw this in the chat too, like calling him a narcissist, like, Dan Campbell's the real reason this offense has been so good. Guys, like Ben Johnson got here and he and Dan, but Ben Johnson, and the reason why he was so sought after is because he was responsible for 3 of the 4 most explosive offensive scoring seasons in franchise history. Like, yes, talent matters, but so you're telling me as an NFL fan, both of you, have you ever seen a situation where there's a lot of talent, but the production isn't there? Don't lie to me. We've seen it.
I mean, yeah.
There's because coaching matters. Coaching matters. And this is the thing that coaches go through all the time, but we don't notice it because we turn a blind eye to it, but it's a real thing. When guys lose their coordinators, if they don't get it right, it hurts them. I mean, we've seen guys get fired over it. And not saying Dan's going to get fired over it. That's not what I'm projecting or expecting, but it happens. I mean, the one I brought up, Dan Quinn, after Kyle Shanahan left, and I know this is where I'll give Dan grace, is because Dan Quinn's still a really good head coach, and Dan Campbell's offensive coach. So I'll give him that. Dan Quinn's on the defensive side of the ball. But when Kyle Shanahan left, they fell apart. Not saying he's the only reason, but it hurt, and he was fired 3 years later. Like, I think people are naive to think that, like, oh, Ben's gone. Okay, cool. We'll just be fine. Like, no. Guys, it's a lot deeper than that. He has to get it right. He has to get it right on the offense side of the ball.
Yeah, and listen, I don't think that, like, and at least me, I haven't seen it, and I'm not one that's going to say it. Like, I know how good Ben Johnson is in the NFL. Like, there's a reason that Ben Johnson just got a head coaching job. There's a reason he was the number 1 candidate in the NFL. I mean, he's one of the best OCs and one of the best offensive minds in the game right now. So, like, I don't know. I haven't seen people go at him as much. More so I'm seeing people go at him because he's in Chicago, and that's been my thing. It's like, you could have went anywhere, and you went to Chicago. That's where I like land on. And I told you guys before the show, like, seeing Ben Johnson on Twitter, and I was just straight up like, dude, I loved Ben Johnson. I was like, dude, he was what he did in Detroit was unbelievable. He literally helped turn this offense around completely. 2 years ago, 2 off seasons ago, he sat down with Jared Goff in an off season for a month straight, and they sat in a room and they developed an offense, and they worked side by side saying, hey, this is what Jared Goff does best. Let's create an offense. And they literally turned that thing around with each other and flipped everything upside down. And to me, I think that offseason and that meeting for however weeks and long that changed Detroit Lions organization forever. Like that one meeting, in my opinion, like, I think I knew, like, they were going to be good, but when they sat down and really developed this offense and made this offense completely unstoppable, that was when you're like, okay, this is a different level. And I think that's where it's like Ben should get credit. Like, he should get credit for offensively what they've done. And as well too, on the other side, and Jeff, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, because I'm not on this side at all. But like the Dan Campbell stuff, like, I don't think Dan, like, I'm not taking away from Ben. I know me and you had that convo today. It was like people are taking away from Ben with Dan Campbell and saying, oh, he's the real mastermind behind it. No, he is not. It was Ben Johnson. But I do think Dan had a hand in, like, getting this thing going to where I do have confidence. Again, like, I have confidence that Ben Johnson will be able to do what he did with Ben Johnson and get him going. And Dan will be able to do that with a guy like Tanner or the next OC. And he'll be able to lead him in the right direction. Because I don't think Dan Campbell's the meathead that everyone says he is. Like, I think Dan Campbell is an extremely good offensive mind in the NFL. Like, if you talk to coaches that have been around him, been in the rooms with him, buildings with him, I'm sure all of them would say, hey, Dan Campbell is an X's and O's. He knows what he's doing. Like that, like don't get that any mixed up. But that's not taking anything away from Ben, because Ben literally has flipped this offense around, and Ben Johnson is the reason you had a top 5 offense for 3 straight years. He is the reason why. So he deserves credit. And I think I tweeted it out yesterday or this morning, actually. 2 things can be true. You can hate Ben Johnson for being a part of the Chicago Bears and in the NFC North and going to a rival. But at the same time, you could say, hey, I give you your props, your credit, and I respect the hell out of you for doing what you did here in Detroit and helping turn this thing around. Both can be true. And that's where I'm at with the Ben Johnson stuff.
Yes.
I do want to, again, reiterate, I do think Dan Campbell is going to be able to take the next OC and not make him maybe as good as Ben, but hey, get him on those training wheels just like he did with Ben and get that thing off and going. I do believe Dan can do that.
And I want to respond to that, because I do agree, and this is why I'm giving Dan more grace, of course, because he's an offensive guy. But I look at it like this: Dan, there's a canvas. Dan tells Ben what he wants painted. Ben paints it. That's the relationship from Dan to his offensive coordinator. It's, hey, this is how it's going to look, and then Ben goes, okay, and then he paints it, and Dan, I'm sure, adds his little strokes in there too, his little paint strokes. But it's Ben Johnson painting it. You're going to have to find an artist like Ben. That's my point. You're going to have to find someone that can paint it like Ben can. You know, I don't think it's going to be a situation personally where it's like Ben leaves and Dan's like, well, I already have in my memory exactly how the former painter painted it. So let me just paint it for you. Like,
every person's different though.
You're going to have to hope that Tanner can paint that canvas exactly the way Ben did, which is hard, man. And it's not, the point of this isn't just to be, oh, boo-hoo, bitch, bitch, bitch. I'm just trying to be real, okay.
Can I ask Klotz a question about this? Actually,
there's a very high not very high likelihood, but it's a possibility. I'll throw that. It's a possibility that Tanner is not Ben. High likelihood he's not Ben, but there's a likelihood he might not pan out at all. But go ahead. Okay.
Well, and this is where I want to get Klotz, because I want to know Klotz's thought and the people too. Because to your point, Jeff, again, I want to make it clear. I'm on your side. I think you are completely correct. But my mind, the way it's thinking, is on the opposite side of it. We have seen OCs in San Francisco, like Matt LaFleur, move on, right? But then we've seen other coaches that have gone on to be even better and even better. Is this a world to where you look at the other side and you have to give this thought, Jeff, too? Because if you're giving that thought, it's only fair you give it to the other side, to where, hey, what if Dan does recreate a Ben, but a better Ben? Because like Tanner's not going to be able to call plays just like Ben. That's Ben's style. Like, but Tanner's going to have a way to call plays, or whoever the next, they're going to have their own way of doing it. Maybe that new way is even better. And because we saw it in San Fran, because Ben was good, and it does not mean you can't have a better one. It doesn't mean like, hey, that's the ceiling. You're done. You'll never have a better OC. No, like, you have a great offense. It is an unbelievable opportunity for a young OC. You have seen in San Francisco, and this is where I want to go to Klotz, because I'm interested to see what Klotz thinks. Like, there's actually a chance that, like, potential. I'm not saying it's like 100%, but like, just like there's a chance he doesn't work out, there's a chance he's better. That's a thought, and no one's talking about it because Ben was so good.
I don't think it'll be better as far as production, but what I am optimistic about is kind of the things that we say, that Ben's always trying to get too cute when it's like the 4th and 1. I don't care that you're going for it on 4th and 1, but now hopefully, let's say it's Tanner, for example. Tanner is seen where it's like, why are we getting cute here? Run the ball. When it's 1st and 10 and you need points, JMO, let's not have you throwing the ball in this situation. So I think there could be two sides of the sword where it's like, okay, maybe the Lions won't be averaging the same amount of points. But on the flip side, hopefully that defense is better and they don't have to. And this offense takes on a little bit of a different style. Like, you cannot replace Ben Johnson, the mind that he was, but you can kind of take apart what he did as an offensive coordinator, just like he's taken apart what Dan Campbell did as a head coach, and be like, okay, now let's imply this. Not exactly. We can't do it exactly, but try to put it in different form. Because to your point, Jeff, you're not going to be able to repaint the canvas. You can grab some of the same colors, grab some of the same paintbrushes, and you can put together a different piece of art. And I think that's what they're going to have to do. I think they're going to have to lean more heavily in the run game, obviously, because what he did in the passing game, like the hook and ladders, that type of stuff, that's one thing. But the timing routes, the chemistry you saw between Amon-Ra and Jared Goff, that's something that Tanner Hangstrom is not going to just be able to comprehend. You can see it in practice, but being able to call the plays in the game on time is a completely different situation. So I think lean heavier into the run game. All the cute stuff, eliminate it. Just turn into what Dan Campbell truly wanted this team to be. Not saying that it was bad with Ben Johnson, but when you think of Dan Campbell and what he wants this team to be, I don't think it's flea flickers and hook and ladders. I think it's just kind of what we see out of the Baltimore Ravens offense. That style of offense, I think that is the path of what this team could be on, and I think that's intelligent when you look at what cost the Lions in the playoff game. Turnovers. What do you got to do more than probably? Run the ball. Don't play action. 3rd and 1. Leave Goff exposed where he can fumble. No, hand the fucking ball off to Jahmyr Gibbs and keep him in the game a little bit more. I think that's something that hopefully we can see is a positive off of losing the best offensive coordinator in the league, Ben Johnson.
Yeah, and Jeff, like I just pulled up real quick because I just want to, like, to my point to that is like the both sides to it. Like, dude, like I'm just looking at the Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay tree, like Matt LaFleur, Mike McDaniels, Kevin O'Connell. Like they're like big names. Like Sean McVay came from Kyle Shanahan. So it's like I think there's like an opportunity. I think all of those guys have their own style. I'm not saying that Dan Campbell's starting a Sean McVay type tree or Kyle Shanahan. But what I'm saying is, and even to Klotzy's point, I think Klotzy's spot on. Like every single offensive minded coach in the NFL, they're similar, but they have their own ways of going about it. Like Kevin O'Connell does it differently than Matt LaFleur, and Matt LaFleur does it differently than Mike McDaniels. Like they all do it differently, but they came from the same place, and they all like have their own ways of like, hey, this is my offense, and it is all elite at the same time. So like I'm interested to see the way Tanner coaches a game. Does he do as many trick plays as Ben Johnson? Does he do this? Does he do like? It's interesting to me. It'll be fun to watch.
Personally, this is where I just see it a little different because my example, I'll use the example again with the canvas. Dan tells Ben how he wants the canvas to be painted. He adds his little strokes to it. The examples you brought up, they all paint their own canvas. That's the difference. Like Sean
but you're
McVay,
saying Ben doesn't have the
no.
canvas.
I'm saying as a head coach, were you compare? What were you talking about?
I'm talking about his play call. I'm talking about like play callers and guys that like are learning.
I thought you were saying Dan was putting him in like the Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan thing. Okay, never mind.
I'm just saying more so. It's like I'm thinking of
those guys
Tanner's
call their own
aspect. What I'm thinking of is Tanner's aspect, him learning from a guy like Dan Campbell, and like Ben Johnson learned under Dan Campbell, and Dan painted the picture. Ben was able to go in there and put his own twist on it, right? And was able to go call plays and do his own thing with it. Like, I'm interested to see, like, maybe Dan does that, and then he's able to bring a guy like Tanner in. Hey, put your own twist and your own play calling on it, and you can go. What does that say?
He's
not giving MPDC enough credit.
But here's the thing: I think people here. My analogy, what I meant by that is Ben. I'm giving Dan credit because it's Dan's offense.
Right now.
Like it's Dan's offense. Dan
backpedaling, Boo.
It is. Yeah, I'm starting to get a little confused. I'm be honest.
I'm trolling you. I'm trolling.
We're joking. We're joking.
Okay. I'll say, are you genuinely confused? It's not that hard to understand. It's Dan's offense. He tells Ben what he wants it to look like, and Ben paints it. And I'm sure Dan adds his little strokes. It's Dan's offense. I didn't say Ben came up with everything on his own, but Dan, there's a reason. If Dan wanted to call plays, then fucking call plays. He doesn't.
I honestly, and I'm going to say this, like, I think if Dan called plays, they would be just fine too. Like, and I know he's not going to, but like, I would have faith in that too. I wouldn't sit there and be like, we're in trouble. I was whatever.
Easy. Thank you. I'm sorry. Dan commissions the painting to Ben.
I think the painting, the whatever you called it, that was a perfect way to explain it.
That's how
Dan, literally, Dan has said it in the media. Dan has came out in the media and says, I give them their game plan at the beginning of the week. This is how I want it to look. And then Ben puts his own. He literally, I'm pretty sure there's a press conference of him saying it word for word, just like we just talked about it. And he has mentioned that before.
Yeah,
as Jesse says, I don't know about that, Booner. We literally, Dan Campbell has said that.
Worse, he says bad analogy. He didn't like my analogy. I thought it was pretty good, the painting. Right?
I like the canvas.
That's how I look at it. So it's not me trying. I'm not saying Dan's just there's nothing in there. He's like, I'm not trying to come off like Dan doesn't know any football. But
there's just yelling at the guys in the locker room, getting them motivated. That's all Dan Campbell does.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny. It is funny that there are people out there who really think Dan just is not a ball knower. Like he's just like, he's a motivator. Like that is what I think is a little crazy.
It's not that Dan doesn't know any offense. Like, dude, no, he's offensive minded, but there's a reason. Like, he doesn't want it. Like, Dan would rather be like the CEO coach, like with some involvement on the offense. He obviously knows both game plans, but he's more involved on the offense. But he likes being that CEO coach where his play callers do the play calling. Like, there's a reason. If Dan wanted to, then do it. Call plays. Let's do it. But he won't, because he knows, like, I want to be the guy that I'm going to help, but Ben or Tanner will call plays. So that's how that works. Like,
he knows his strength and his weaknesses.
Exactly.
And I admire that, because then you don't end up with a Bill Belichick late in his career where it's mine team. It's like, yeah, it is, dude. You don't need to prove it in every facet of the fucking game. Chill out. So he'll be good. Dan, I guarantee, like, I don't remember where I saw it on national media, but I thought it was a good point that they gave credit to. Like, let's not act like Ben's the one deciding every time to go for it on fourth down. Like, the aggressiveness
that's a Dan
of
decision, by the way.
Offense, like, that's Dan Campbell. Like, Ben Johnson didn't just pull up and be like, we're going for it on fourth down more than we ever had. No, like, Dan was already doing that. So the mentality of this offense, the aggressiveness of this offense is not going anywhere. But the way that they get down the field, that is what is going to look different.
Dan, by the way, too. Yeah, I hope that's not confused. Like, he's the one that makes those decisions. That's all on him.
Absolutely.
I don't think Ben. Maybe Ben has a say. Like, he gives it, like, they go back and forth. But I think Dan's like, he's the one that's always like, yep. Or
like,
even if there's like a trick play or something, I'm sure Ben has always, hey, Dan, these are what we have in play. Like, Dan is very, very well aware of what's going on with the offense.
Yeah, I mean, Benji, shout out to Benji, by the way. That's my guy. He says, yeah, Dan has literally said before that him calling plays would take away from him being able to coach all over the place. He doesn't want to be the play caller. Simple. Yeah, like, that's fine.
He was the play caller for a little bit, too, for a couple games. I'm pretty sure.
And it was better than Anthony Lynn. But it was better than Anthony Lynn. It was. But Anthony Lynn, that was, like, all the time.
Dude,
they didn't have the talent on offense that they do now. So, like, I get that, too. But go ahead. Sorry, Booner.
I had someone comment on my Dan O post and says, I'd rather have, I think they said Anthony Lynn. I was like, okay.
Oh, dude, no one wants to see Anthony Lynn again.
That was crazy.
They saw him on Washington sideline thinking he was doing something. That's Kingsbury, Dan Quinn, Anthony Lynn. He's probably like, he probably is a good running backs coach, but that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And honestly, guys, the reality, and I want to end with this, and then we'll move on. Like, I've been if you couldn't tell, I've been a big Ben Johnson guy. I'm upset he went to the Bears. And if you want to say he's going to suck with the Bears, go ahead. I'm not going to argue with you. Like, we don't know. We honestly don't know. What I believe and what you guys believe in the chat, it doesn't matter. He could suck. And I'm not going to fight you on that. Honestly, you can have your beliefs on how you think he'll coach with the Bears or him joining the Bears, which, Booner, you mentioned, which I'm with you. Like, it sucks. It's annoying. It's frustrating. But the thing I hate is the people that try and discredit what he did in Detroit because they're frustrated. You know, it's like we talked about it before the show. It's like you have a girlfriend, they leave, they get another boyfriend, and it's like, okay, it's okay to be frustrated, it's whatever, but then they start lying about that your ex-girlfriend. You're like, well, she's this. Oh, well, I heard this, and saying all these lies. It's like, dude, you know that's not true. You're just upset. Like, I know you're just upset that Ben left, and that's okay. You know, that's okay. But yeah, we'll get to all that Tanner stuff. I'm sure we'll see what happens over the next couple of days. And Coach Walk says, well, thanks for letting us have an opinion, Jeff. Appreciate you, Coach. Yeah, I knew that was going to be a long one. But we have some free agents to get into too. Lions have free agents.
He said, I knew that was going to be a long one. That was a good conversation, though. To be honest, that conversation getting into that OC, because like with Tanner, like that felt, you know what? That felt like a healthy conversation. It did.
Yeah, it's
it is shocking a little bit to me though but that you've been, honestly, and I'll say this, the first person I ever heard say Tanner Engstrand was Jeff Iafrate like 3 years ago. Like, as soon as Ben got that job and Tanner, I think, got promoted to pass game coordinator when Ben moved and became the OC, you were like the first person I said it. So that's why there is that side of me where it's like in the back of my head, like, is Jeff like questioning Tanner after being on his side for like
no,
you were literally you're the originator. You are the originator of Tanner, and now you're like, don't expect him to be good. He might be bad. He might actually not work out. And I'm like,
I'm trying to be honest because I have confidence in him, but I'm just giving you the reality. There's a chance he may not.
There's a reality of the
like,
situation.
but the reason why we saw it coming is because of what he was doing. The Lions have little details they do, right? It's Ben Johnson. He's the pass game coordinator, tight ends coach, promoted. Tanner Engstrand, pass game coordinator. Like you see trends with the Lions. They know, they know when you see when a guy's getting promoted. Like Tanner's next up for sure. There's a reason why he hasn't been rumored to take other jobs. I mean, that's just as simple as that. But hey, we got free agents that are coming up. And I'm going to
be right back, boys. I have to go get some water. I'm so... What's the word? I'm
parched.
very parched right now, and I have been since we started the show. And all I've thought about the last hour is like, I need to get some water. So start without me. I'll be right back.
Take five.
It's all that Kool-Aid talk, man. The guy's just thirsty. Here's the free agent list for the Lions. Shout out to Danny Bennett, runs Lions on Tap, man. He's doing big time stuff over there. You should follow it on Twitter at Lions on Tap. But here's the free agent list. They have $67 million in cap space, 67.9, which is a lot. I mean, hey, that's a lot of money. And the free agents that are going to be available, you got Carlton Davis, Marcus Davenport, Kevin Zeitler. You got guys like the Commish, Emmanuel Mosley. I want to play a game when Booner gets back. We're going to go through this list, and you give me a yay or a nay. We're going to do that because I want to see how many of these guys that people are interested in bringing back. But here's the thing, though.
A lot of nays from me.
The good news is it's not really anyone significant.
That's what I was about to say.
It's really not. Carlton, I guess, would be the biggest one. I don't want to I'm not trying to throw shade at him. That's a pretty big decision. But other than that, I mean, Marcus Davenport. And by the way, people, I see Ball Don't Lie said that's a shit ton. If you really look at the names, though, it's not really like Quan Alexander. They just brought him in.
Williams. Hold on. I want to go full screen on this. Third name?
Yep.
Matike. Who?
I'm back.
Some of these names, I have not.
Oh, yeah, there's a couple guys. There's a couple guys there, boys. That I don't know about either. Whoa.
Well, here, this is what we're going to do. Booner, we're going to play a game chat. Play along with us. We're going to go through these names.
I already wrote mine down yesterday.
You tell me yay or nay. All right? And we're going to go through this free agency list, and you tell me yay or nay. Should Brad Holmes bring him back? All right? And we don't have the exact contract, what it's going to look like, but you can, in your head, roughly guesstimate what it would be.
Right.
Okay? All right. We'll start off first name. The biggest one, Carlton Davis, yay or nay?
Yay.
Yeah.
So we'll just keep firing. I feel like this won't take much time, to be honest, boys.
All right, Marcus Davenport.
Cheap deal, yes. Klotz, you said it before. He's coming off back-to-back injuries. Yeah. Very cheap deal, yes.
See, Marcus, as
long as you sign him to a couple million and you're not signing him to a big deal.
Yeah.
And he doesn't see the field starting.
Yeah, if you sign him to a deal and you go out and get someone else with the money you would have spent on him, I'm in on that. But if you have to sign him to a bigger deal, like a deal like he had last year, I think I'm out because wasn't it $5 or $6 million? It might have even been more than that.
You don't pay that man
$8
more
million.
than $2.
Yeah,
I think 3. That's what you give him.
Agreed. And I think you have to go out and get someone else.
He's your commish. He's what you wanted commish to be this year. That's
I still want
what
commish
I
back.
bring him.
Give me the commish.
All right, we'll get into it more.
Yeah, I'm a little split. I'm gonna go nay on Marcus.
Okay.
I think it's time you bring in a new younger guy in the draft. Maybe you sign someone else. Kevin Zeitler.
If he's still available, yeah, he might.
Yeah.
I could see him retiring.
No. Okay, actually, I'll break the news. He put a post out today saying can't wait for year 14.
Oh,
so
then yay.
Yes.
Then yay.
Yes.
Bring him back.
I'm yay. Yay. Bring that man back. That's actually huge, to be honest with you. If you can bring him back, that's massive.
He teased it a little bit. I don't know. It wasn't a for sure, but he was like, can't wait to see what year 14 has in store. So you would think he's looking to play again.
Yeah.
I see Nick in the chat says get rid of Glasgow from Mahogany.
Yeah. I
don't think you get rid of him, but you bench Glasgow for Mahogany.
Agreed. Yeah, Glasgow turns into, remember that 6-man last year or 2 years ago? When Jonah Jackson was there, Glasgow is now that, in my opinion. I was going to actually make that statement at some point. that
He had a rough year.
yeah, Mahogany should be your starting guard. And if like you can't resign Kevin Zeitler, then you do run with Mahogany. But I would rather bring Zeitler back, put Mahogany on the left side.
The commish, yay or nay?
Yes.
I'm gonna go
Yes. When he's healthy, he's good. And he only got
Boone, what did we talk about yesterday?
You love the commish, Boone.
I love the commish.
What did we
He
talk? We're done with
produces.
that. Go
No, we're
draft
not.
the guy. Go draft the guy.
Agreed. But you could still bring the commish back on a cheap deal. He's a good player.
I'm saying nay. I'm saying nay.
I'll say, unfortunately, I'm going to say nay.
No.
Unless
Jeff's
Boone,
Jeff's already cut 2 edges. We don't have any edges.
Yeah.
We don't have any edges.
Boone, Boone, we got to get
When
some more.
he's healthy,
we gotta get
he
some more bodies in
produces.
here. That's fair. Commish, though, if maybe he can be like the Matty Betts of next year's training camp or this year.
And to iKing, shout out iKing. I haven't seen him in a little bit. To his point, like Dan does love the commish. Like there are just some guys they won't move on from. The commish is one of those guys.
Exactly.
He just got a job.
But it's not like Klotz. He's not like one of those guys though that doesn't produce when he's healthy. He produces. And it's like he was just not healthy this year. Like last year, he was their starting edge, basically. It's like
that's rough.
You're putting him in a bad position. Let him be your backup, and he is a good backup in the NFL in the Detroit Lions.
Replace him with Jack Sawyer.
Go give me 2 guys in the draft. Like I don't care if they bring him back for training camp, but I don't want him on the 53-man roster. If he stays on the practice squad, fine.
I can't do this conversation with you.
All right, how about Emmanuel Mosley?
I don't have the stats ready to go. Yeah, he's out. Goodbye.
I mean, to quote Mike Valenti, shoot him out of a cannon. Get him out of here. I want nothing to do with Emmanuel Mosley. Levi Onwuzurike.
Who's Mike Valenti? I'm just kidding.
Levi Onwuzurike?
You think
signed,
he cost a lot?
cheap deal. No. Do you remember at the beginning of the year, though, when Kevin Zeitler was like, he's going to be a Pro Bowler. Like, you're going to be paying him big money. He didn't have that year, so I think there is a ceiling for him. I think you can get him cheap. He didn't play well.
There's a lot of people saying yay for him. A couple people saying no, but
I'm gonna say yay just because DJ Reader's young or old, my lord, and Levi's young. Yeah. It just cheap.
Levi's in my resign on my resign list.
Yeah, I'll go yay because he's good depth. He's good depth. He's not what he was when you drafted him. He's not that he was a bust for a 2nd round pick. He was, but what he is now, like he could be a good depth piece, I guess. I don't know. I'll just go with that. All right, Khalil Dorsey.
I say yes.
I put yes. He elite special teams guy. I know he just got hurt, like elite special teams, like very good.
Yeah,
that's a weapon to have. I like a guy. People got to think if you say no to him, you got to have 53 guys on the roster. You can't go out and get 30 new guys. So he is this guy, back end guy that's very good.
I'll go yeah.
Jeff wanted to say no. You had no logic.
No, because I got a no coming very quickly. But I'll go Dorsey. I'm bringing back Dors. All right, I like Dors.
Yeah. Well,
solid.
Can we just say this?
He can return to. I like him. I do.
Can I say this? The next 2, get them gone. Don't care for either one.
Yeah, Kindle Vildor, and I really okay. I hate it because I've seen him on. Shout out to Honolulu Blues. He joined their show. Like he is a great dude. You know, like, as a human, yeah. Like he's a solid
great person.
Like love to go share a beer with him, talk some ball. That'd be awesome. But
on the field,
Kindle, nay, like a horse. Nay, get out of here, man.
There's just some like trying to think of the word for it. Well, when you're looking at the optics of Kindle Vildor will always remind me of a bad moment. And that's just something where it's time to move on.
Spot on.
Like what we talked about it during the stream. It's like last year in the NFC Championship game, what situation we're in there?
Yeah,
Kindle
one
Vildor
play.
on the outside for you. Guarding your wide receiver 1 for the opposition. This year, same situation. There's got to be a way to solve that, and it's by not bringing him back. He could potentially get picked up by another team.
Which is fine. To me, your contending team, Klotz, you have to upgrade that. That's a position group you have to upgrade. You have to get better than Kindle Vildor in that spot. You have to. There's no there. If Brad, the corners, I'll say this. Do you guys remember last year? One thing I was very vocal on was like, you have to get rid of Charles Harris. Have to get rid of the Aquara brothers. Like you have to upgrade those guys. Like to me, you're almost at that same spot with the defense line again, outside of a couple pieces. But like the corner room, you have to upgrade. You have to. Like there's you clear house on that back end and you go get new guys because you can't run the back again with these guys. You can't. That's insanity. That's insane.
We can just skip Badgley. I mean, he's out of here.
Yeah, poor guy.
All right, we'll go to the next guy, Kyle Pecco. What do we think about Kyle Pecco?
No.
Wow. No, I like Kyle Pecco.
No.
That's a Boone guy, though. That's a Boone guy.
Why do you like? Dude. What have you seen ever from Kyle Pecco? So like
you just love these guys, Boone.
I just love dogs, dude. I love people who play hard and they give everything
Kyle
you have.
Pecco?
You haven't even heard a bark out of him, and you're calling him a dog.
He was on IR all year.
So how do you know he's a dog?
How do you know
he got hurt? He was playing well.
How do you know he's a dog?
What did he name me a Kyle Pecco play?
He got a sack.
When? Against who?
At some point in his career.
At some point in his career.
Not even
this guy.
Hey, listen.
Again, draft somebody.
Listen, he's just like he's a depth piece. I think he was on the practice squad for a little bit.
Hey,
so if you get him on like the practice squad, PS. Who goes to the pound and wants to take him on? Yeah, honestly, dude. I love. Hey, listen, I've said it a lot. I'm a man of the people, man. I just enjoy people.
Look at iKing Horse. So far, according to this show, you just have to be a dog and a nice guy to make the 53. Yeah, that's basically the checklist. I mean, just be a good dude and be a dog.
All right, how about this? Teddy Bridgewater gone.
Yeah,
does that help? He's a good dude. Hey, boys, good dude. He's a dog. He's out of here. Not signing.
It's a hell of a high school team. He'll lead him to the state championship.
I'm out on
Allen
Teddy
Robinson, no. Ezekiel Turner. I wouldn't mind Ezekiel Turner, practice squad guy. Yeah,
me too.
Okay, this is where it gets interesting. What about Iffy Melifonwu, chat? What are we thinking, chat? Bringing it back or
let me break you down on this one. If he can play, I know the injuries are there. That's a very cheap deal. Very cheap deal for a corner that you know that if he's healthy, he gives you something. It's worth just saying, hey, we'll give you a couple million. You're not going to find another player at that level for as cheap as you're going to get Iffy. That's all it is. It's the same thing with someone else we had earlier in the conversation. Who was that? Davenport. Same thing with Davenport, in my opinion. Like Davenport's going to be extremely cheap because of injuries, and he when he's healthy, he's playing at a very high level. Same thing with Iffy Melifonwu. Like it gives you depth, and it's like you could still go get a new safety if you want. Like if you want to go get depth at that spot, you can go pay someone else. Iffy's going to be very cheap, very cheap. Like that might be like a minimum in my opinion. Almost.
Yeah.
That would be my thought process.
I'm just
value-wise, you're getting a good deal.
What do you think, Klotz? You nay?
I say nay. I understand that he's good, but again, that's where it's going to come down to. He's going to be cheaper, but he's not going to be dirt cheap. And when you look at the safeties that Brad has drafted, obviously Brandon Joseph blew up in his face this year with an off-the-field thing. But he drafted Kirby Joseph in the 3rd round, Brian Branch in the 2nd round. This safety class isn't that bad, and like I said, as long as you're going offensive line, that's fine. But this draft needs to be defensively heavy. You're drafting a guy that's not going to be starting and be playing meaningful snaps. And like even if you look at the free agents, like you got guys like Justin Simmons, Tyrann Mathieu, Jordan Poyer, a lot of veteran guys, Andre Cisco, that are going to be cheap as well. And it's just injuries. Like I'm not paying a guy that's going to be hurt again. Like he's been healthy for one season of his career. So
listen,
good player, but not worth the money.
I get your points, Klotzy, and this is where we had this argument last offseason, I remember, and I think eventually you came to understand a little bit. But, like, listen, there are guys that we're not going to like, but, like, Brad, like, all right, you've said no to, like, 8 guys already or something. Like, in my opinion, it's like there's going to be yes that we don't like because it's like you're not guaranteed to go out there and get someone better, and you can't get rid of 15 guys and go out and get 15 guys in free agency. Like that's to me unrealistic.
Well,
I take that into it.
Maybe
you can
draft.
Sorry.
Draft,
well, no, I think draft and free agent, but I don't think you can go out and get 20 new guys.
We've agreed for all of them except if
I agree. I'm just saying like some of these guys. I don't know about that. Look, a couple more, but I'm not saying us disagreeing, but I'm saying like there are guys as well that we agreed on getting rid of. But my point is like you can't get rid of 15 guys. And they're like the guys that I'm saying yeah to is because you have to fill the roster. The only reason I'm saying yeah to Iffy is like you have to fill the roster out. and you can't go out and just get like unlimited guys and be like, well, this guy we just want to upgrade. Like there's going to be upgrade spots, and then there's going to be spots where you have to bring guys back that you might not like.
My thing
I think
is
Iffy's one of those guys.
If at this point with the Lions in win now mode, if I'm giving to somebody money, I want to know that they're available. And Iffy has not been available.
I'm with you on that point. I think they bring him back though. I guess I'm thinking more so who they bring back.
But all I'm saying is if it's up to me, I'm saying nay.
Oh, that is weird.
But if you're willing to pay Davenport,
what did I say? He needed to be this year. He needed to be the last option. If he's going to be a guy that they're going to want out there nickel packages, and
not if you go get someone else. Not if you go get someone else.
Exactly. So go get somebody that's healthy and can play that.
But again, it's the same point as with the edge or the edge. Like, go get someone else. You have Davenport on a cheat. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
If Iffy Melifonwu is the third safety up, so if there's an injury to Kirby,
but if you bring someone in over him,
the next guy up.
But if you bring someone in over him like you are with Davenport,
that's fine. But I think if you're looking at that safety room is somewhere where like, okay, we have the starters set. Go use all the help you can for the defensive line. And we see Cam Kitchens, a third-round pick this year, balling out. I can put full confidence that Brad Holmes can find a rookie safety that's playing the third string that can put up just as much production as Iffy would there on a cheaper contract because Iffy's going to get hurt eventually. Even if it's in training camp. Dude got hurt twice in training camp. I understand that there's guys that you have to bring back. I wouldn't be shocked if it was Iffy Melifonwu, but he's going to be asked to play a larger snap count than guys like Marcus Davenport, and Marcus Davenport's literally going to probably cost like $2 million. Iffy Melifonwu is going to cost more than that because he's so versatile, and he's had a stretch of years recently, just last year, where he was elite, and he's going to be able to have that leverage. Marcus Davenport has no leverage. So, in my opinion...
I'm sorry to cut you off. I do have breaking news, and I just want to... So, reports are... And this is big. So Jordan Schultz, shout out Jordan Schultz. He says sources are Aaron Glenn has landed back in Detroit in Woody Johnson's plane. So he took Woody Johnson's plane back to Detroit. No deal as of now, but the sources say a substantial offer was made to Aaron Glenn, and the Jets job is his if he wants it. Glenn, right now in Detroit, is currently constructing his potential staff, which would ideally include Lions quarterback coach, Mark Brunell.
Oh, that was the one.
If Mark Brunell does not land the OC job in Detroit, who could be in play as the OC for Glenn? I'm also told Glenn wants to bring in a veteran DC who has been a former NFL head coach. Sources is still putting Glenn is still putting his offensive staff together. And it says former Jets special teams coach Mike Westhoff could be an option should he become or decide to come out of retirement. So it looks like AG. It's not like official, so I'm not going to put it out on our socials yet. But it sounds like Mark Brunell is going to interview for the OC in Detroit.
At some point during the show where it's like, I know we talk about Hank Fraley, Scotty Montgomery, we're out on them. But there is definitely a world where Dan Campbell's looking at Mark Brunell, a former NFL quarterback, a guy with a lot of coaching experience, a guy who has to explain the plays to Jared Goff. Like Ben Johnson's creating them, but who's actually coaching those plays into Jared Goff, into this offense? It's Mark Brunell, and Mark Brunell knows what it's all about. And I was like, if it wasn't Tanner Hankstram Booner, that was a guy where I was going to bring up later. Like I would,
Mark's a great
obviously
one.
The odds are going to favor Tanner. Like I'm not saying that, but I would not be shocked by any means if there was a world where Mark Brunell, former like NFL quarterback, he's seen all the looks. He knows what it's like to be in big moments, had playoff runs in Jacksonville. Like it wouldn't be a terrible decision, in my opinion.
That's it. That's crazy.
I mean, he just like Tanner, just like Ben, Mark Brunell is right in Goff's corner as well through practices. Jeff don't like that, I don't think.
No, I was looking up because Brunell obviously has a decorated career. Like he's made Pro Bowls. Like he's I think he led the league in passing yards before.
The only good quarterback Jacksonville's ever had.
Yeah, but before taking the job with Detroit, he was the coach at a high school. I'm pretty sure. So like he's been a quarterback coach, and I'm not saying he doesn't know obviously he knows offense. I'm curious how what happens with that. You know,
Well, my whole thing is like going back to it, like AG's been around Mark Brunell. Like if he's very confident, like Mark Brunell's going to
of
work as
course.
an
He
OC.
knows his shit.
And I think it's different from the Hank argument just because I think a quarterback's coach, obviously, like you said, especially because I think it's part of the run game coordinator Hank is. But like Mark Brunell, like he knows this offense inside and out as well. He has to. Like his job is the quarterback's coach. Like the quarterbacks have to know it inside and out. He's got to install all of these plays. He's got to develop these guys. So yeah, that was a piece where I was like, at least Mark Brunell is staying. That was my one thing.
Yeah, well, Mark Brunell is a really good quarter. He's really good at what he does. So like, I'm not denying like what he knows on the offense side of the ball as a quarterback. Like he's been around the NFL as a player. Now he's been a quarterback coach. Like I'm sure the dude knows offense. Okay, I'll ask you guys this because I think it's a good conversation to have. What's your kind of concern level for regression? What's like in terms of the whole coaching staff getting poached, picked apart? I mean, it looks like it's tough. What's your concern level with losing this many staff members?
They're going to be a playoff team. They're definitely going to be right up there to win the NFC North, but the NFC North is going to be a little bit closer this year, and I think there's no way in hell that they get the 1 seed. I would have to go back and look, and honestly, at this point, fuck the 1 seed. I never want to sniff the 1 seed ever again in my life after.
Whoa!
But anyways, I think when you look at
Man doesn't want to sniff.
I don't even want to see the 1 seed. Like, go ahead, have the 1 seed. That's fine. This Detroit Lions team with Dan Campbell is built with adversity. Let them have that chip on their shoulder of not having the 1 seed. But I just think this team's going to regress. If you're going to ask me, they go from a 15-win team to a 13 to 12-win team. And I don't think that's terrible. Like, it would be, even if they kept Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, they're not winning 15 fucking games again, especially if you look at the schedule that they have. When you look at the road schedule that they have, it's brutal. But then again, you can say that it applies to the rest of the NFC North pretty much as well. They always have the toughest schedule when you win the division, but the division shares a very similar schedule. So everybody's schedule in the NFC North is going to be tough. But again, there's going to be oh shit, we're missing Ben Johnson this game. Oh shit, we're missing Aaron Glenn this game. There's going to be a couple of those moments that pop up. Still going to be a very good team. Still going to be very high in the Super Bowl odds when the next season comes out. But there's no doubt they're going to regress. If you're looking at yourself in the mirror and say that the Detroit Lions are going to stay the exact same or improve, maybe on paper they could. I'm not saying that. But as far as a functional football team from quarters 1 through 4 and big games, they're going to take a regression a little bit. But I think with Dan Campbell at the head coach, they'll be able to get it together before playoff time.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Klotz a little bit to the point to where, like, there is going to, like, it's not going to be a substantial regression. I don't think it's a bad regression. I think just more so it's a new staff, new team, new everything. Like we saw it again, like even with the same staff from last year to this year, you did see a regression from weeks 1 to 5, like from last year, the year before. And Tom Brady said the best every year. Everything resets, and you have to learn how to play with your new team, whether you have a lot of the same players or not. Like you have to learn everything new. And I think the biggest storyline behind all of it is the coordinators. You're getting a whole new offensive coordinator, a whole new defensive coordinator, and a lot of new positional coaches, most likely. So like you have to get used to that in training camp. I can't wait to be at training camp and see these new guys. Like I'm excited to see some of these new coaches and see kind of how that works. Now, maybe I'm not as far as to with Klotz. Like I still think, boys, and this is just me because of the what Brad Holmes has done with this roster, and then who you have at the helm with Dan Campbell. Like Lions are still the team to beat in the NFC North. Like they're still the best team in the NFC North, in my opinion. And I think like that's why it's such a big job to have right now. And there's so many coaches that want to be a DC and want to be an OC for this organization, is because you literally, boys, we have the shirts in our store. You are the kings of the North right now. You have won it back to back. Like, yeah, you might not go out there and win 15 games because of the schedule you have and because you're maybe a slower start. But I still think the Lions, like I'm still betting on them to win the NFC North. They're still going to go out there and compete for a Super Bowl next year. Maybe it's going to be a little bit of a harder path. But I think, like, hey, with the regular season you have, boys, I've said it before, you're going to be built for it in the playoffs. You're going through a gauntlet in the regular season. You're going to learn who you are, what you're about, and you're going to figure out those mistakes early on in the season just based off of your schedule. So I think when you get to the playoffs, this team's going to be ready to go next year. And I think, again, boys, We were talking about this year how they were the 1 seed. They were the ones punching down. Even if they were the 1 seed next year, this team losing in the divisional round, that taught them something. Like they have a massive chip. Knowing those guys and knowing Dan Campbell, they have such a big chip on their shoulder going into next year that I think that was, I mean, I hate that it happened and I don't like it, but one of those things where you hate that happen that are at the end of the day ends up being a blessing in disguise. And you're like, oh wow, like this really taught us and we really went through it because we had to learn through that to go through it and do it. So I think next year, like, listen, the regression, first half of the season, yes. Second half of the season, no, I think they get going, and I think this team's going to win the NFC North. They're still going to have a chance at the top 2 seeds in the NFL or in the NFC, and they're going to go on and have an opportunity to win a Super Bowl next year. Like, if that's the regression we're talking about, no, they're not going to have a regression as a whole of the season, in my opinion. Now, Jeff, I'm with you. The start of the season, I do think there's going to be bumps, boys. It's what it is. Like, that's realistic with any team that gets new coaching staff at that level. But you still have your core. And you have an insane roster. You have one of the top 3 roster in the NFL right now. Some could argue the best roster in the NFL when they're all healthy.
Yeah. I mean,
I just want to make it clear real quick. I didn't say the Lions can't win the NFC North. I just said the NFC North is going to be tighter this
year.
Yeah,
and that's I still disagree. I think the Lions are going to run through it. I still think there's an opportunity next year. They go 6-0 in the NFC North. I just think, like, I know we're going through we just lost. And with all of these injuries, like, again, Jeff, you've been preaching this for months. These injuries were going to catch up to you. But when those injuries aren't there, you have the best roster in the NFL. Like, if you break it down, like, you have the best safety duo in the NFL, some of the best linebackers, the defensive tackles, the best edge rusher. Like, the corners is the question. And then offensively, you have some of the best wide receivers. You have the best running back duo. You have a top 5 quarterback. You have the best offensive line. It's like, this is still, on paper, one of the best rosters in the NFL. That's where I think the only regression to me is like the schedule you have and the new OC and the new DC is like trying to get them back and involved and getting on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, we got to be consistent. And I'm not saying this to you guys like you aren't consistent. You're not consistent. But what I'm saying is, remember, what did we say when the year started? The Lions had the best roster assembled in the National Football League. But what did we say after that? The continuity of this coaching staff will help them, and it'll give them an advantage. They won't have continuity, so that is going to be
slow start.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that, Boone. I think it's going to, I don't think it's going to be as smooth as maybe other people think. But if I'm asked the question, will they regress? Yes. What I mean by that is what you guys are saying. I think the wins, you're not going to hit 15 wins. I just don't see it with the schedule. It'll be much tougher. I think 12-13 is probably more realistic, somewhere in that ballpark. But at the same time, we thought the Vikings would suck or at least be mid. They won 14 games. Like, teams kind of, you don't know what's going to happen with a lot of these teams. Injuries could happen to other teams. So a lot of it you can't predict. But this is why, again, I'll say it again, people use the term window, because when you have the number 1 seed and 15 wins, you have that opportunity. Or last year in the NFC Championship game, you have that opportunity. Like, that's why you got to, of course, it's going to be there's going to be new challenges this year that you have to face, whether it's in your division, whether it's on the schedule, potentially injuries, hopefully not, or it could be anything. It could be Jared Goff struggling through a stretch of games. It could be the defense trying to figure it out. It could be anything. So, will they regress? Like, yeah, they will, because you just, you lost a damn good coaching staff. You're losing a damn good coaching staff. You're going to continue to lose coaches. So it's always hard. There's only, I'll bring up, like, the Chiefs have Andy Reid and Mahomes, but they have Spags, but Spags ain't going nowhere. Like, they're always going to have those guys together, but not everyone's like that. Like, look at the Bills.
And as of now, like, they're having Matt Nagy for another year. Like, I know he doesn't do play calls, but
Boone, you told us about the Bills this year. You were spot on about that. But what happened? They got Joe Brady, and look at them. They're back, but they got Joe Brady. They had Brian Daboll at one point, and they were really good. And they were trying to find another Brian Daboll, and they got him. And here they are. They're back. So it happens in the NFL, man. Like,
Dan could end up making the right hires both ways, and this team is 15-2 again, and they're the 1 seed, and they're Super Bowl favorites. Or it could go the other way to where, hey, they struggle and they have to figure this thing out. That's where it's like the question mark with this coaching staff. Like, Dan knows it. Like, I think the team knows it. Again, it's the hottest ticket in town for if you're a coach that's looking for a new job and you want to be an OC in DC. It's the hottest ticket in town. It's the best roster in the NFL. This is one of the best openings that people are looking for right now. And like, there is no better opening in someone's career than the Detroit Lions right now. That's just to me a fact.
No, and I agree with that. I would now this, when we say regression, like if you win less games, or you don't have the number one offense in points per game and number two and all this stuff, like that's regression. They're going to have regression. Like, does that mean, like you said, it doesn't mean they're not going to win the Super Bowl? No, that's not what it means. But they're not going to have, obviously, the coaching staff. They just had the last couple of years. The guys are going to leave, so they're going to have to replenish that. And hopefully, they're all great coaches. We don't know. We'll find out when they makes the hires, and what they look like. We know the roster is going to be good, so pressure is going to be on Dan Campbell. I mean, and he knows that.
Yeah,
and he can handle it. He's shown he can handle it. But still, stacked roster, new coaching staff. But this is what happens. I mean, the reality is, when you're a good team, this is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you're going to lose coaches. It's just how it is. Like, even if they nail Tanner Engstrand, he'll be gone in 2 years. Like, it's just how it is. Or a year, who knows? And Coach Walk's point, you're going to have progression too. Progression on the defense. I am with you, Coach Walk.
Yeah.
Assuming who they hire, I want to see who they hire at DC. I want to see what goes on with Aaron Glenn. That's probably what I'm so excited to find out what happens with that.
I got a name for you boys though, because I was thinking, Boone, about outside hires. What about it's kind of because he got a DUI, I think, like last year. But Jack Del Rio, I think, is a name that'd be perfect in Detroit, because you look at what he did because he was the coach for the Raiders, and he's been defensive coordinator numerous times in numerous spots, was offensive or the head coach in Raiders, got booted out of there. But then he went to the Commanders, and he had 2 years where they had a top 5 defense, and he was there for 3 seasons. So I think if you brought in Jack Del Rio, he'd be another guy that's been there before. Like, I think Jack Del Rio's never had a bad defense unless it got smacked around by injuries. But he's a guy that's kind of, in my opinion, would be like a solid level hire, because he's proven to do it numerous spots.
He's currently the head coach of the Paris Musketeers.
There's a European football league. Jack Del Rio.
That would just be unbelievable if we got an alert saying Jack Del Rio from the Paris Musketeers is the new defensive coordinator of the
Musketeers. Crazy name.
Wow.
Hey, real quick, I want to. I didn't get to these super chats earlier, and that's on me. Streams only, Zay. That's on me. We had a conversation, but I'll get.
We need to be better, or Jeff.
We got to be better. We have to be. Zay says talent over coaching. Thank you for the $5. We appreciate it. I'll say with that, yes, players make plays, but it's tough. It's like over coaching, but by how much? Like, coaching matters, man. Like, it just does. I would argue the NFL is a sport where coaching matters the most. Like the NBA. Like, it matters, but you know how it is, Boone. Like, you've seen, hey, if you like players LeBron, for example, yeah, like players lead. Yeah, I feel the NFL is heavy schematic based.
Depending on the team you're coaching, to be honest.
There's just so many different situations, like time, yards, like it's just a completely different. Because I feel like most games are just continuous all the time. You know what I mean? Like basketball, you can take timeouts, but the change of possession, it's all depending on the player. In football, there's constantly just strategy here, because there's different plays and you got to stop every time.
Streams only. Appreciate the $10, brother. He says, doesn't matter, Jeff, in the most important parts of the season, playoffs, he goes away from the run. Talking about Ben Johnson. Does stupid trick plays, does stupid cute things, et cetera, et cetera. He's not a proven coach.
You know what?
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, we had that conversation with you the other day with Ben. It's like Ben's done that all year. Like, and I think people it's easy to say. And I think even Klotz has mentioned it before, because Klotz has mentioned how he wants kind of some of that stuff to change a little bit when it comes to the 3rd and 1s and the 4th and 1s, instead of doing trick plays or the empty sets. Like, Ben, as much as you want to be mad about it in the divisional game, Ben has done that all season long. Like, he has called the same game consistently, and they've gone 15-2 doing it. It was frustrating because you lost a playoff game because of it. And that was something that he's done. If you go back and watch games all season long, Ben has been in those positions, and he has done this similar things all year.
And I will say the ending I agree with. He's not a proven head coach. We don't know if he's going to be good or not. I think he will be, but again, I can't. Where am I going to argue? Just off his offensive mind. But I will say, going away from the run, that's fine. Does stupid trick plays. We love them when they work, though. I will say, time of them, maybe we get frustrated. I get that.
That was, you guys were like, remember on the stream, that was what I was trying to explain. I know we were all mad about the JMO thing, but there was that side where it's like, yeah, that was very dumb. But it's the same thing like when you guys got mad at me for complaining about the Dan Campbell 4th down. We were at a bar doing the stream and we were arguing about it. I was like, it was just flipped on the other side where it was like, I felt like you guys were in my seat at that point, or my shoes, where it was like, yeah, that. But then you come to the realization, like, yeah, Dan just does, or Ben just does that. It's the same thing with Dan. It's like you hate it in the moment, but then you realize, like, that's just who he is.
It's like the give and the take. Like, he'll give you the number one scoring offense. You're gonna have some moments. Yeah, it comes with he's not a perfect guy. He's not perfect. But I get it. I appreciate the super chat. We also have another one here. From Rain Man, he says, Tim Patrick,
this is my brother. Go to bed, dude.
Hey,
you got
Tim
work in the morning. Kids are trying to sleep. Go to bed.
Rain Man.
He said Tim Patrick will go no cab. That is
we didn't even get to Tim Patrick on the list. Is Tim Patrick going to get re-signed?
Oh yeah, you bring back Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick should be your wide receiver 3.
I mean, it's like
Dan Skipper.
Skipper, bring back. Yes, you need all.
Pat O'Connor. Love Pat.
I hope you're not in a situation where you have to.
That's a Booner guy.
I'll say no to I'll say
AQM?
no to
AQM you bring back. Yes.
I would say Tim and AQM, I'm open to that. Yep.
I'd bring Muhammad back before Davenport. Tell you that much.
Wow.
Ooh,
Ben Neiman.
Don't hate it. He's a good special teams guy.
Yeah.
Love him. Yeah. And Dan loves him too.
Yeah.
What about Derek Barnes?
Derek Barnes.
He's going to cost some money.
That's a prove it deal that I'd be all right with because it's going to be cheap as hell. It's not Emmanuel Mosley, you know what I mean? In my opinion, it's not Ife Melifonwu either because we've seen stretches of Derek Barnes multiple times be able to put together.
How about Quan Alexander, Klotz?
Hold on. I'm thinking about the Derek Barnes one.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
Because I'm really guys,
Derek is really good for the defense.
Yeah.
He ended up turning things around. Like last year, he had a career year, and then obviously the injury. That Sam position, Derek Barnes will thrive in that position.
Yeah,
I know.
Thrive. Like that's worth to me. That's worth the money. Having a guy that he probably won't be like, give me the bag because he just got hurt, and you'll get him on a decent deal. You probably have to pay a little bit, but like he's been in that system. He's been with Dan. The new like he's a culture guy.
I'm okay with it. Steve Wild says I'd rather sign Greenlaw. Is Greenlaw hurt a lot?
Oh yeah, he like kills himself.
Not on
injury. On the field, dude. He just throws himself. Like
I love.
Do you remember the Super Bowl?
Love Drake.
Yeah, he tore. Remember when he tore his ACL?
Literally, we were. Classy was like, dude, the man just runs around and he's just reckless. And then like 2 seconds later, he like celebrates on the sideline and just tears his Achilles, and you could see it pop.
He even tullocked himself. And then this year he came back and he didn't even hurt his Achilles. He banged up his knees. Like
yeah,
I would love Dre Greenlaw, but
he's always hurt.
Is it worth the money at this time? I don't think so.
I think Derek Barnes.
I'll say yeah. I'm cool with that. Yeah.
Cody said Barnes sucks. I disagree. You must not be watching the games we're watching.
No, Derek Barnes is going to have a good season.
He's been good. Last year he was really good, and then before he got hurt, he was great at that Sam spot. Great.
Did he get hurt? Did he get hurt too?
Well, week 3.
A little week 3. Yeah, it was a little.
He played 3 games. And then I think he was hurt. Benji says, speaking of linebackers, he said, speaking of linebackers throwing themselves around the field, brother, Jack Campbell stays hurting our own guys,
bro.
I know he does.
He really does. Dude, I mean, he just hurt Carlton. Was he the one that hurt or no? I don't think he hurt Ant.
No, he hurt.
He was the one that hurt Amik, but he hurt somebody else too.
Oh, that's who it was.
I forget who it was.
Was it Amik? Did he hurt Amik?
Yeah, he's the one that.
Yeah, he was the one that broke his arm.
I said Carlton. I meant Amik.
One time I remember he almost concussed Brian Branch. Like he just went helmet to helmet with Brian Branch. It was on that Tucker Kraft play too.
Can I be honest though? I know he hurts our own. I like my linebacker flying around.
Yeah, absolutely. But
I love a linebacker that.
Like, no, you're right, Boone. You're right.
I mean, that's what you ask out of your linebacker. What's crazy is people will be like a linebacker that doesn't do that. Like I want him to play. I want him to be better. I want him to fly around more. And it's like then when he does, you're like, he needs to stop it. He hurts people. Like, let the man. the meat missile. Let him go out there and do his thing, dude. Don't ever complain.
That
Get out of
dude
his way.
Shout out to the heavies, man. That dude is a meat missile. Like, he is.
Man.
That dude is a meat missile.
Just want to get out of his way.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's Quan Alexander, Jonah. All these guys are
Yes.
So,
Yes. Bring him back. No.
I feel, you know what?
No.
I would like to
I'm
publicly apologize to all the people that I sold on Quan Alexander.
Hey, add another name into there, Jamal Adams.
And Jamal Adams. And well, Jamal, I was really high on Quan. Like,
No,
Jamal,
you
were
higher on Jamal.
No,
You did a whole YouTube video on Jamal Adams. You're
What-
like,
what,
I
did you
can't wait, boys.
Did you watch it?
No, but either way.
You gotta watch it, Boone. In the
I'm
video,
sorry, dude. We do
in
a
the
show
video,
together.
I did say that he would have a role. I didn't think he'd be like amazing, but I was like, man, AG's gonna find a role for him. Quan, I was like,
Didn't work out. Klotz was
Quan-
Quan too.
Quan,
They-
I was like, hey,
I was.
yeah.
The
No,
day
I think
Quan
the
happened-
one I was
Same
highest
boat.
one was David Long. David
That's
Long
who it
hung
was I
around
was
more-
thinking of.
David Long hung around for a little bit. He made some plays, made a
Yeah.
fumble recovery. Come on,
Dude,
now.
I was
And who
excited for
forced
Quan
it?
Alexander. I was.
I don't know.
Trevor
tell
Nowaski.
you.
I'm
Did
just
he?
kidding. I don't know. Probably.
Yeah.
By the way,
Pro
can we
said
tell the people
probably, like it was a guarantee.
can we tell the people tomorrow too, our guests, so people here know to come back?
Oh
tomorrow?
yeah, I'm pumped. Yeah, I'm pumped.
All right, Boone,
I'm
hold on. Talk to him.
Do
What
you
do we
want
got?
me to tell?
Yeah,
All
what we
right.
got cooking
The
up?
the boys we're having on tomorrow. Football icon Trey Wingo coming on the show
Come on
tomorrow.
now.
Trey
What?
Wingo.
Right.
I've been watching Trey Wingo stuff for the last 48 hours. Just taking it all in, learning
Watching
a little bit
film.
about
Dude,
the
Trey
guy.
Wingo's the best,
He's-
dude.
Yeah.
Dude, he's great, dude. I've never really watched Trey Wingo a ton, and then I'm watching this stuff the last 48 hours. I'm like, dude, Trey Wingo is an absolute
Yeah.
legend of the game.
NFL Live. That like I would come home from school all the time, and that would be like the first thing that'd be on. It'd be like around like 3-4 o'clock, and it'd be NFL Live with Trey Wingo. Goat, man.
Dude, he was at
'Cause he's
ESPN.
entertaining. He's funny as hell too.
Yeah,
He was there for like 25 years, dude. I'm
Yeah,
looking
he's
at
a
it. I'm like, dude,
pioneer.
yeah. I was shocked. And he did the what show was it? Before he got let go of ESPN.
He did NFL Live. Before, yeah, that was his main show.
With the dad and the son. Did he do a show with them or a podcast with them?
oh,
Am I-
he's
am I-
good with the Golics. The Golics.
Yes, that's what. Yeah.
And
Golix.
He's close with like. Is it Golics?
I don't know, dude.
you sounded confident when you said that.
Yeah, no, dude, I'm terrible with names. Hey, Maurice Alexander, or not Maurice Alexander, Maurice Norris, Morris
Norris.
one of the worst.
That came full circle too. That was sickening when we had if you guys weren't around when we were in training camp, the Lions period, like there we were looking at the guys they were bringing in, and we were like, Booner was like, who the hell is Morris Norris? And we're like, what type of name is that? And we're like, somebody really named? And then we went and looked, and I don't remember who said
Maurice.
it, but we were like, dude, that's Maurice. It's not
Yeah.
Morris. And then it came full circle. Who's getting the third and fourth quarter of the game? Who's out there? Maurice Norris. And we were like,
Dude, what's so funny
like,
is
that's
like
when
I
you knew
like,
it was bad.
after the Lions lost, going home and going to like different places. Like I've had family or friends being like, "That Maurice Norris guy's out there," and in my back of my head, all I could think about is this Morris
Morris
guy.
Norris.
Leave
That'd
me
be a hell of
alone.
a name, though, if you think about
Oh, great name, dude. I mean, if I was him, I would go by Morris Norris.
it.
Sounds like it's like a Chuck
It's a
Norris. thing.
badass name, dude.
Easy
Yeah,
said
no,
it is
I'm-
Golic. It's 100% Golic.
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 Yeah.
Yeah, Golic.
Now, I'm
and
excited
Wingo.
though. I'm pumped up. And we have the doc on. Tomorrow's like a 2-in-1. We have Trey Wingo towards the beginning of the
8:30.
show at 8:30, hopefully like 8:30 to like the 9. And then we have the doc after Trey Wingo to follow. Like that's like what a show, boys. Pumped up.
Yeah, no,
Can't miss
it's-
tomorrow's show.
Doc joins in the middle of the Trey interview and starts chirping him.
Oh my
gonna be-
gosh.
This
I would-
is
I would
my
shut-
time slot.
I would remove Doc so fast.
Hey, look at Easy called him Morris Norris.
Okay, I'm not the only one.
What? That's
Yeah,
like
I can
that's
see.
literally the traditional name, the way to spell Maurice.
I could see Easy on there being like Morris Norris, just like Boone. I mean, we fell for it at first. I mean, I did at least. I was like, and I had to look. I had to do a double take. I was
For like a whole show, I think we called
Yeah.
him Morris Norris.
Morris Norris. But yeah, man, Wingo, that's gonna be a good one. And it's really, guys, I mean, if we're being honest, it's thanks to you all. I mean, we've grown.
Yeah,
I mean, we're about
honestly.
10 away from, I believe 10 away from 12K, which is massive. And just growing the platform to be able to do things like this and have Trey Wingo on and get you guys the best guests that can talk football with us and provide insight and talk on levels of football that we just don't understand at this level. Like Trey Wingo can bless us with the knowledge of everything he's been. It's going to be good to be able to talk.
I'm excited. I told you boys, like, I'm excited just to hopefully we're going to get a lot more interviews and, we've setting some stuff up. I'm just excited just to like kind of become friends with some of these football guys. I told Jeff today, I was like,
Boone, shake some hands.
Dude, I did like, for college basketball, like you have to network to get to where you want to go. So it's like networking's fun to me. And it's like, dude, it's just like seeing like, and I told Jeff, I'll probably ask him, like, dude, just football dudes, like just being football dudes. It's the coolest thing in the world, bro. And it's like, I'm sorry, I just get a little excited there, but it's like just getting around the best football dudes in the world. It's like unbelievable. I hope we get to be around a lot more. Like we're going to the combine and like the interviews and stuff there. Like I'm so pumped up just to be like literally around the NFL world again. Like we were last year. This year we're like more able to actually like mingle. Like it's football, boys. Like it's
hey,
like
who's the special?
Pump you up.
Honestly,
yeah, he just got the job in Carolina.
Yeah, but yeah, but
it's
kind of crazy if you think about it. It just clicked in my brain. We talked about full circle, how Maurice Norris was on the field and the Lions lost. Who did we see at the fucking combine? Who did we see? One of the guys when we were all together walking. We saw Dan Quinn. Quinn. And we ended the year looking at Dan Quinn.
I like rubbed shoulders with him, stood right next to him for 5 minutes looking at him. And he had his Washington Commanders gear on.
So what's up, Dan? I didn't say what's
up,
Dan.
That was foreshadowing.
That was a foreshadow. We never knew that man would have the last laugh almost a year later. That's fucked up. That's fucked up.
It's a tough world we live in, huh?
It's a tough world. It's a tough world we live in. Get your questions. We've got a couple minutes here. We'll answer whatever you guys got. Oren says, mailbag, any prospects in the draft you like at this point?
Can I be honest with you, boys? It's time for me to start diving in.
Yeah, yep.
I haven't really taken a look. Like, obviously, I know college players that I've watched through the year. I haven't like to me, it's more so like defensively. You got to really get to know. I'm not gonna throw out their names until Klotz might know a couple guys because the man's got a weird brain. But I got to dive in now. I don't want to. Jack Sawyer.
If you're gonna be sitting at the back end, you need so much help. I really like if you're gonna go corner again, which I wouldn't hate. You need as many corners you can get. Decario Davis out of Arizona, I like a lot. And honestly, boys, I know you don't need a receiver, but just because I've been on him for so long, bring Xavier Restrepo home for the love of the game. Just bring him home, 4th round.
Klotz, if you do that, you're not bringing back Tim Patrick. So. Saying you got to choose.
No. And one thing I've been noticing, I'll check out draft coverage as soon as they start it up, like on ESPN. Once they start doing dive-ins, I'll always watch like draft content because it's fun to just learn about guys. And we watch college football all year, so you kind of have a good idea of some prospects. And my whole Nico narrative led me to watching Tennessee, and I got to watch.
Their defensive end's fucking nuts. Their defensive line in general is fucking nuts.
Yeah, they got a really good defensive end coming out this year, and he's mocked like in the 18. He's mocked around like in the teens. So that's a guy that
straight up. Go get yourself an edge, man. I'm kind of all in on the edge, to be honest.
It's a deep edge class. So even at 20, what are they at? 28. Yep, James Pierce Jr. Yep, Malik. Thanks for telling me that. He stood out dude. You're watching Tennessee. That defensive line, dude. They got
deep running back class too, Hefe.
Let's get more question, boys.
There's always some.
We get one question. We finish the show with one question. Let's get some in. No, we're good.
Jesse, mailbag. Booner, be honest, true or false? If some fans start the Jared Goff chant at a Pistons, oh god.
What's the
be
question?
Honest, true or false? If some fans.
There's no like second part of that, but I'm assuming like.
Are you okay with it?
Yeah, should the Jared Goff chant, is it alive and well or what?
Some people say it's dead. Klotz says it's dead. To be honest, do you want me to just be completely frank with you boys? really don't care. Like that's the last thing
I never want to hear that.
It
Like, look, there was a point where it's like, oh, this is kind of cool, like the whole city getting together. But then when you're just abusing it at every fucking moment you can, and then Jared Goff goes up because it's not all Jared Goff's fault, but that's who name's being chanted, goes off and throws for 4 picks. Fuck no.
To be fair, we were doing it before the game on an F4 field. The boys were down there.
And we won't do it again. We learned our lesson.
I might just do it just to make people mad.
Oh, wait, hold on. Benji. He said, what do you guys think about DJ Moore's recent tweet? Like, holy shit, get your own identity. He tweeted out Knuckles, a gif of Knuckles. And then everyone was roasting him. Like the Sonic, like Knuckles, like Demont, like you tweeted out a gif of Knuckles, the character from Sonic.
Like saying Demont come back home.
It was just like a gif of Knuckles. Like basically being like, come back. And then he quote tweeted it was like, oh, I'm just watching the movie. That's why I posted it.
Sure.
I hate
the Bears, dude.
Come on. You know that's not true, DJ.
I hate the Bears, dude. I'm over them.
Freaking get their own identity. I'm with you, Benji. Get out of here, man. Demont left that franchise. He's with the Lions now. He's fine. All right. Man. Hey, boys.
One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Wow. End the show on
that. Feed the ball to Jameer more next year.
I'm cool with that. Or it wasn't Knuckles, it was Shadow. Sorry. The villain.
So he's trying to be a villain. Makes it even worse. What a loser.
Still applies to Lions. It still kind of applies. He's trying to be like, oh, you got Sonic and Knuckles. I'm Shadow. See, I don't know the Sonic characters. Thanks. Easy's got a son. He knows all the characters.
DJ Moore was ready to go to Cabo or Turks and Caicos when the season was still going on. Like, good luck over there, Ben. Like, dealing with all of that. Have fun with that one.
Hey, I appreciate you all. Tomorrow we got a packed show, like we said. Wingo, Trey Wingo, the Trey Wingo, and we have John Macaroon, the John Macaroon, the legend, the doc. So tune in tomorrow, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. We'll be live. Check out social media platforms if you're not following above. Give it a
congratulations to Lukas Klotz, national champion.
Come on now, bro. Shout out.
Congrats, Klotz.
Appreciate that, Boone. A man of class.
Appreciate that. Want to let the people know. It's a good feeling, isn't it, dude?
If you guys have not seen Klotzy's POV of a Lions fan, please go watch it. It's on our YouTube. It's on TikTok. It's on Instagram. It's on Twitter. It's on
funniest thing is Klotz texts us and goes, "Hey boys, is this funny?"
I didn't know if it was or not.
I think it's got like 1 million views across all platforms.
Yeah, it's you crushed, dude.
It took me like a half hour to make too. So it's like, I hope I didn't just do all this for nothing.
What is that?
It's just King Horse and Easy, dude. You guys are sickos.
All right, Boone, do you want to read that one off?
What should we ask Wingo? What was it? Go pull it up.
I'm a she-male.
Oh yeah, I don't know what that is. That's why I was saying I don't know what that is.
Come on, I would have went right over Boone's head. That's why I wanted. Like,
all right, we'll get out of here. Appreciate you all. Have a great night. Peace.
Love you guys.
Peace.